Hi, Angela. How are you? Thank you for joining tonight. Appreciate you. Hi, Nikki. I'll give you Anthony a chance to join. Please like and share, guys. Tap, 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 tap away. Hi, Gregory. How are you? Hey, Jason. All right. I'll invite Anthony up. He'll join, and we'll get back to our topic at hand. Again, please like and share, everyone. No apologies necessary. We appreciate it that you guys are letting us know that. You know, we can't monitor it from here. I hear the droning on of my own voice, and we wouldn't know unless someone told us. So I'll bring Anthony up. Hopefully that's better, you guys. I guess we'll do our best here. So please tap, 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 like and share, drive some content out there. All right. So we were just talking about the hit piece, the political hit piece that was the her testimony. I want to go back to the report because at the end of the day, the right can spin this any way they want to, and they will. And you will see the spin from that testimony. Robert Hur, from a factual perspective, was appointed to his post as United States Attorney by whom, Anthony?
Donald J. Trump.
Thank you. Then Merrick Garland and the Biden Justice Department kept him on. Merrick Garland assigned him to this case as special prosecutor. So the fact that the right continues to think that this is a political witch hunt it just blows my mind, because Joe Biden is dragged through the mud, and there's been so much deference paid to Donald Trump during this entire process. So we can end that conversation right now. But more importantly, page 254 of the Hur report talks about the fundamental differences between the Joe Biden situation and the Donald Trump situation. So, MAGA, if you would like to take Robert Hur's word for it, then you need to take Robert Hur's word for it. It is not, this is from page 254. This is from the report filed by special counsel Robert Hur. It is not our role to assess the criminal charges pending against Mr. Trump, but several material distinctions between Mr. Trump's case and Mr. Biden's case are clear. Unlike the evidence involving Mr. Biden, the allegations set forth in the indictment of Mr. Trump, and we'll cover that a lot in a little bit, if proven, would clearly establish not only Mr. Trump's willfulness, but also serious aggravating facts. Most notably, after being given multiple chances to return classified documents and avoid prosecution, Mr. Trump allegedly did the opposite according to the superseding indictment. According to that indictment, he not only refused to return the documents for months, but he also obstructed justice by enlisting others to destroy evidence and then to lie about it. In contrast, Mr. Biden alerted authorities, turned in classified documents to the National Archives and the DOJ in 2022 and 2023, consented to the search of multiple locations, including his homes, permitted the seizure and review of handwritten notebooks he believed to be his personal property, and, in numerous other ways, cooperated with the investigation. That is the entire case. That is the entire case. Nowhere did Mr. Hur imply that he would bring charges against Joe Biden. There was not sufficient evidence to support it. That is the entire case. Any comments, Anthony?
Well, it's funny when we were talking earlier how Mr. Garland erred in judgment and letting the report get released that didn't match the actual transcripts.
Correct.
Right. And that the GOP is going to continue to go off of the talking points. But
Correct.
what we're going to do here is we're literally just going to go to the actual transcripts. And I know some members of the audience are going to say, well, how do we know it's real? Was there a recorder there? Yeah, there's a transcript. So that's how you know there was a recorder there.
Right.
You're not in your mom's basement with your Sony tape deck and your Maxell XL90 cassette tape recording from the radio.
Wow, that's a flashback. Damn.
Yes.
Gen X.
Now, this is super important because this is how we're going to establish credibility, right? You can believe whatever you want to believe, and that's fine. I've given up on trying to convince you that the misinformation you continue to ingest is doing you harm. But let's look at it from what would you want to have happen if this was you? If you were Joe Biden and you were sitting in his seat, irrespective of your feelings, would you want the truth to come from the transcript or the filtered half truths that were presented in the report? Because when you look at the report, it's quite clear that it's a hit piece and that it's completely biased, not even partially biased, completely biased. But when we look at the transcript, it tells a completely different story. And so there is no two sides to this. There is one person who literally throughout his career, because he said this also when he was interviewed, hey, listen, I would find stuff, I would go to my staff's desk and I'd be like, give this back. Because he knew, because he's been in politics his entire life, that he wasn't allowed to have it. And so throughout his career, one of the things that you'll see in the various interviews about this is he talks about when he was at, because people are going to bring up his office at Penn, right? They're going to be like, oh, what were you doing there? And blah, blah, blah. And he's like, look, I had an office there. I taught. And every once in a while, I found something. It's like, hey, look, I've got hundreds of boxes. It's not an excuse, but I go through stuff. I find stuff. I turn it in. And I assume that when we're done with Mr. Herr, that we're going to do a contrasted comparison by using quote unquote witness number 5 to
Yes.
point out
Yeah.
the stark differences between Trump. And may I just add, sir,
Please.
that is a fantastic bowling shirt, and I am a little jealous. And perhaps we need to have a team bowling shirt.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate the acknowledgement. I would agree. I've got quite a few, as a matter of fact. So, excellent segue. So, as I did a video on this today, guys, and I want you all to bear with us this evening if you can. I'm going to play an interview. So, that gentleman's name is Brian Butler. Brian Butler, identified in the superseding indictment regarding the documents case in Mar A Lago as employee number 5. The reason that he has come forward is because Aileen Cannon has floated the idea of releasing witnesses' names. So he decided that he was going to address this publicly prior to that decision, whenever that happens. So he sat down with Caitlin Collins from CNN, and it's about a 26-minute interview. And I think the easiest thing to do is just to play it. We'll sit back. I want folks to listen. Some of you may have heard this. Some of you hadn't. There's a couple of moments where I might jump in because there's some commentary that I wrote throughout. So I would ask that people just kind of pay attention and listen. Please like and share. This is really, really important. I think this tells a very interesting. It paints quite a picture. Let's put it that way. So let me pull this up and make sure my volumes are set here. There we go.
Out publicly with your story now.
Well, I mean, it's been almost a year since FBI agents showed up at my house when my wife was at home. And, over the course of the last year, emotionally, it's been a roller coaster. A couple weeks ago, Judge Cannon says she's going to release the names of the witnesses. You go from highs and lows in this. And instead of just waiting for it to just come out, I think it's better that I get to at least say what happened than it coming out in the news, people calling me like crazy. I'd rather just get it out there. And, the hope is at least I can move on with my life and get over this.
I mean, your whole life changed as a result of this. What was it like last summer to read through that superseding indictment and to realize you are Trump employee number 5?
I mean, I was out with my family out of town on vacation. I got a phone call from my attorney, and he said, hey, they just arrested Carlos. And, my heart just dropped. I mean, I'm like, oh, my God. Carlos
de Oliveira, who is not only the property manager at Mar A Lago, but was one of
my best friend. I mean, we used to talk every day. Every day, I mean, we were always at least in some sort of contact.
And you had just seen him a few days before that.
I think 4 days. He was at my house. We played golf. We had a great time.
It must have shocked you too.
No, it's, it hurts. No contact since then.
And I should be clear, Jack Smith's investigators sought you out. How many times do you think have you talked to investigators now?
I'd say probably between 4 and 5 times
Can we talk about what started all of this, which is the boxes? I mean, Trump was clearly obsessed with these boxes. At one point in the indictment, someone refers to them as his beautiful mind paper. What was kind of known among the employees about why he cared about these boxes so much? Did you talk about them?
I never talked about them. I really didn't even know what was going on until the investigation. I started reading in the news. Employees were getting interviewed, the indictment. So June 3rd, he goes back home. He went back home. We had moved a bunch of stuff, the belongings, everything.
That's when he's going from spending his time in Palm Beach to spending his time in Bedminster, New Jersey.
That is correct. So, we're there to assist with luggage, anything that needs to go to the plane. So, and since I ran the car service, I had, employees come to help with luggage, and then we were going to bring it to the plane and then back up, and then off to New York they went.
The other key thing about that is that was the...
Pause for a second there, because I think it's a point of contention. We'll visit this a little bit later, or a point of observation is that during this time, this gentleman's responsibility within the Trump team was transportation. So he was the guy that would pick people up at the airport, back and forth, manage that, and he made note of there were numerous trips back and forth between Bedminster, New Jersey, and Palm Beach or Mar A Lago. I just want to make sure we caught that.
The day that his attorneys were meeting the FBI at Mar A Lago, the day before, one of his attorneys had gone and searched the storage room, not knowing that Walt Nauta, the body man who is now a co-defendant, had been moving boxes in and out of that room the day before. Did you know about that?
No, I never knew anything about that. On June 3rd, Walt had came up to me and asked me if he could use one of our Escalades. Since I ran the car service, I pretty much kept control over the vehicles. I had loaded a bunch of the family luggage into a minivan, and I was just going to drive it to the plane, load it up, and that's it. But during us getting luggage, Walt asked, "Hey, I need a minivan." "Sure, go ahead." And then he left. And I didn't think anything of it. It was a little odd the way he asked me. I mean, it stood out now after all this. But him and Carlos were gone at that time. And, I didn't know, because typically he wouldn't go get a vehicle, drive himself, and get luggage. So
it was unusual for him to make that ask of you that day.
It seemed odd to me once I figured how everything went, down the line, June, July, and August. From what I learned, it kind of made sense. Something was up.
You weren't just putting luggage on that plane that day.
So I only remember Trump family personal luggage. And then what happened is Walt left before me, and he never goes directly to the plane. He's either in the motorcade or when he goes there with the boss, the former president. And I remember telling him he left the club with, I didn't know what he had in his vehicle, but he waited for me at a nearby business, and I told him I would tell him when I was leaving Mar A Lago. So I left Mar A Lago, I texted him, "Hey, I'm on my way." He followed me, he pulled out and got behind me, we got to the airport. I ended up loading all the luggage I had, and he had a bunch of boxes.
You noticed that he had boxes?
Oh yeah, they were the boxes that were in the indictment, the white banker's boxes. That's what I remember loading.
And did you have any idea at the time that there was potentially U.S. national security secrets in those boxes?
No clue. No, I had no clue. I mean, we were just taking them out of the Escalade, piling them up. I remember they were all stacked on top of each other, and then we're lifting them up to the pilots.
How many boxes was it?
They asked me in the interview, and I believe it was 10 to 15 is what I remember. I know
being the investigators.
Correct.
And when you look back on that now, what do you...
Well, I had no clue until probably the end of June. There's a few different things that happened that kind of opened my eyes to, something's going on here.
So you get that unusual request. Did you ever think to yourself, why were there so many boxes at Mar A Lago?
For me, I'm just thinking, the former president, he has a lot of stuff he likes to lug around with him. I never would have thought it was anything like what we see now.
Classified documents.
Yeah, I mean...
On that day, as you're helping load these boxes unwittingly into the plane and handing them to the pilots, Trump is back at Mar A Lago. And did you know that his attorneys were there that day? It's
funny because I remember seeing this taller guy, I think flick back silver hair. I think it was Evan, who I now know to be Evan Corcoran. And I saw a bunch of other people in the living room. I had no clue. I'm just seeing all these people. I have no clue what they're there for. I was on the cloister outside over by the bar. The former president was walking towards the living room, like he was going to enter the living room. He was with Secret Service. I remember he said hi to me. Hi, Brian. Hi, Mr. Trump, or President Trump. And then he went in and talked to them, but I had no clue who those people were.
And it was Evan Corcoran, Trump's attorney, and members of the FBI, Jay Bratt.
Which, you know, I come to realize now, at the same time he's going in there, the boxes are going from somewhere into a vehicle, which are eventually going to the plane, which I load with.
I'm going to pause right there briefly because I just want to make sure that people are kind of catching up here. What this gentleman is referring to is that he was just part of the procession, the assembly line, if you will, taking boxes from Mar A Lago, loading them on a plane. That plane then flew to New York and eventually ended up at Bedminster. With that being said, I'm going to pivot for just a second because I think it's incredibly important that we also review this. So this recording that you'll hear is from Bedminster, New Jersey. This information was included in the superseding indictment. So again, follow the chain of events here. Documents being moved from Mar A Lago, loaded on a plane, then flown to New Jersey, okay? So this interview, what you're going to hear now is Trump and staffers, and this was a meeting in Bedminster. People were interviewing various people in the Trump organization for a book that Mark Meadows was working on. So that's the context here, okay?
These are bad, sick people.
That was your coup, you know, against you.
Well, it started right at the
like when
beginning.
Millie's talking about, oh, you were going to try to do a coup. No, they were trying to do that before you even were sworn in. That's right. Trying to overthrow your election.
Well, with Millie, let me see that. I'll show you an example. He said that I wanted to attack Iran. Isn't it amazing? I have a big pile of papers. This thing just came out. Look. This was him. They presented me this. This is off the record, but they presented me this. This was him. This was the Defense Department and him. Wow. We looked at something. This was him. This wasn't done by me. This was him. All sorts of stuff. Pages long. Look. And let's see.
Yeah.
I just found, isn't that amazing? This totally wins my case, you know. Except it is like highly confidential, secret. There's a secret information. Look at this. You attack, and
Hillary would print that out all the time, you know.
she'd send it to Anthony Weiner, the pervert. By the way, isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
I was just saying, because we were talking about it, and you know, he said he wanted to attack Iran, and what? These are the papers. This was done by the military, given to me. I think we can probably,
We'll have to see. Yeah, we'll have to try to
declassify.
figure out
Since president, I could have declassified.
Yeah.
Now I can't, you know, but this is classified.
now we have.
So, again, following the course of events here, we now know definitively from other examples that are also included in the superseding indictment, this gentleman, Brian Butler, was responsible for or part of the assembly line loading documents on the plane taken from Mar A Lago. He referred to Walton Auta asking for a car last minute as out of the ordinary. Boxes taken from the minivan, loaded in the car, and then loaded on the plane, handed up to the pilots. And you can put two and two together that some of the documents that were brought to Bedminster, New Jersey included information about attack plans. And the reporting is such that these are attack plans for Iran. The documents were still classified. They were highly sensitive. We know for a fact that Trump has made numerous claims that he declassified things with his mind. This case, again, specifically, is not about the classified documents. It is about obstruction of justice. And the willful retention of national defense information is relevant because that's what they were obstructing. That's the component. All right. So everybody's following along, I hope. Thank you for hanging with me. I want to go back to the interview. Anthony, any comments so far, sir? Okay. All right. Back to the interview.
With Walt.
Do you ever remember seeing those boxes come back to Mar A Lago?
I don't. I do not.
And then in June, a little bit later, you get a call from Carlos telling you that Walt is coming to Mar A Lago.
It was actually, we live literally 30 seconds from each other.
Your neighbors.
We're neighbors. So we would always go walk. And just on the walk, I remember him saying, hey, by the way, Walt's coming tomorrow. Oh, cool. That's great. I was like, okay. It wasn't until the following day when we're out walking, he's like, hey, by the way, it's a secret. Don't tell anybody Walt's coming. And, well, why? Well, he needs me to find something out before he gets here. Oh, what's that? He needs me to, how long the camera footage is saved at Mar A Lago. And I'm like, well, that's odd. Why do you need the camera footage? Why do you need to know how long it's saved? And his response was, I think they're looking for somebody that was there. I said, oh, okay. I wonder who.
So he tells you that Walt's coming, that it's a secret, that no one's supposed to know, and that they're looking to see how long the surveillance footage goes back?
That's what he needed to find out by the time Walt got there. So now it seems really odd to me. And then not many days later, when I receive a call from the corporate head of security at Trump Organization saying, why didn't you tell me Carlos moved boxes? I didn't really know he moved boxes. I never saw him move boxes on June 3rd. I mean, I know now that that's what it looks like was going on. Him and Walt were moving boxes, and then he drove to the plane. But I had no clue. My response was, what did I move? Did you see me on video moving something? But I guess he had gotten a call from the corporate attorney at Trump Organization and said, save this video footage. And that's when he went to look at the footage and said, why didn't you tell me Carlos I guess it's Carlos was moving boxes.
And this is really important, this moment about the surveillance footage, because Carlos has now he was indicted in part for lying to federal investigators because he was having a conversation with another one of your coworkers about deleting that footage. That Trump had told him to have the server deleted. Did you and Carlos ever have any other conversations about the surveillance footage?
So sometime in August, after the when I met with the prosecutors, I said after the raid, and they immediately corrected me and said lawfully executed search warrant. So after the lawfully executed search warrant, I was on a cruise the day that they showed up at Mar A Lago. I was going to a cruise and I had gotten a phone call. But when I got back, like a couple days from when I got back, I reached out to a friend of mine who worked at another Trump property. And he said, hey, by the way, your boy's in trouble. I hear your boy's in trouble. I'm like, what do you mean? And he's talking about Carlos. And I'm like, Carlos didn't do anything wrong. He's like, well, that's not what I hear. I heard he asked Lucille to delete video footage. And I said, he would never do that. I mean, Lucille's making that up. Something's not right. So
Lucille Tavares is listed in the indictment, in the superseding indictment. He was like the IT director. He was the one, there's reporting that Walt Nauta and Carlos met with Lucille and they walked away from the security booth so that they wouldn't be heard. So that's who he's referring to.
Now I'm like, something isn't jiving here.
And Lucille Tavares he was the IT employee at Mar A Lago that in the indictment it says Carlos had the conversation with about deleting the server, right?
Correct. But that's the first I had ever heard of that, is when a friend tells me that my friend's in trouble, basically.
But when you started to think about the conversation you and Carlos had about surveillance footage, and then you have this conversation, are you beginning to get suspicious?
It's all like a puzzle, and it's little pieces here and there, and now I'm wondering. And, I asked Carlos, I said, did you say that to him? No, I didn't. I wouldn't. I asked him about the video footage, timing, and how long until it deletes.
He denied to you that he had tried to get it deleted.
That is correct.
But you got a call from Walt Nauta after the search happened. What did he say to you? So
I was on my way to my birthday weekend down at the Hard Rock, and I think I texted him like, hey, we'll talk at in an hour. I was with people or something. So I called him back, and he's like, hey, someone just wants to make sure Carlos is good. I take that as, Trump wants to make sure Carlos is. So, I reply, listen, Carlos is very loyal. He would not do anything to affect his relationship with the boss. I've never seen him, never been happier on the job. I mean, he had a very close relationship with the former president. It was, everybody saw it at the club. I mean, they would always interact. They would walk around the property. They would, I mean, so, you know, I told him, no, Carlos would not do anything to affect his relationship with the boss.
Why do you think you had to assure Trump's body man?
I really don't know. I'm sure somebody, I think the former president told Walt to reach out to me. I don't know why.
And then did you later have to assure to anyone else that your friend Carlos would be loyal to Trump?
The end of that call with Walt, he told me, he's like, we're going to get Carlos an attorney. It's like, okay. So I get to the Hard Rock, or right around the same time frame, and Walt says, they add me to a Signal chat group with Susie Wiles, and he says something to the effect like, Brian, just can you put in this chat what you just told me? So I type it up. I say, hey, it's a little weird to me, but listen, Carlos is very loyal. He would not do anything to affect his relationship with the boss. He loves what he does, and you don't have to worry about Carlos. to that effect.
And for those who don't know, Susie Wiles is running Trump's 2024 campaign, and Signal is an encrypted app where your messages disappear.
Again, the conversation then shifts to Signal being an app that does not say there's no message history. So again, draw your own conclusions from that. So this gentleman was then asked to reiterate the conversation he just had and put it in Signal to assure Trump, in this case, of Carlos loyalty, as they describe it. Loyalty. Okay, that comes up a lot.
Correct.
So Walt Nauta told you that they were going to get Carlos an attorney. What happened after that? Did he get a call?
So I'd say within 30 minutes, I think it was probably a lot sooner. I'm with Carlos. We're at the Hard Rock by the food court, and his phone rings, and it's the former president. He takes the call. We're standing in the food court. I think we went to sit down, and I can't remember how long the conversation was, but I know at the end of the conversation when they hung up, Carlos said, he's going to get me an attorney.
Did he tell you anything else that Trump said to him?
I didn't ask, and I don't remember him saying anything else, but I was just told not too long before, we're getting him an attorney by Walt, and then he gets the call that he's going to get him the attorney.
Who's paying for your attorney?
I actually had reached out to counsel before anybody came to talk to me, just so I was prepared. I knew it was coming. I just had a feeling. But no, I paid for my own attorney.
Why was that important to you?
Something like this, I think it's better to look after yourself and take care of it yourself. Even the voicemail by the attorney that called me, he says, I'm representing former President Trump.
Hey, Brian, good morning. My name is John Rowley. I'm one of the lawyers representing President Trump. It's my understanding that you got a grand jury subpoena. Would you please give me a call at your first opportunity?
Did you ever call that attorney back?
No. I sent it to my attorney and let him handle it.
Were you feeling pressured to stay in Trump's world?
Carlos and I were very close, as was previously reported. There was a golf tournament. Carlos, let me get you tickets.
Bribery. Let me get you tickets to the golf tournament. Let me pay your attorney for you. Bribery.
Or I'm sure the boss would love to see you. In my mind, I would not step foot in any of his properties. Again, the attorney, I think there was a lot of pressure there, I feel. It got brought up multiple times. He mentioned to me, why didn't you call him back? It's going to cost you a lot of money. I mean, you should see my attorney bills that I get. It's thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. I said, I'm okay.
So just to level set, what we're listening to is employee number 5. His name is Brian. Employee number 5 identified in the superseding indictment. His name is Brian Butler. And what we're listening to here is an exclusive interview with Caitlin Collins from CNN. He is listed in the indictment. And the reason, at the very beginning, the reason that he said he came public was because Aileen Cannon, who's the judge in this case, has said that she was going to release the names publicly. He chose to get out in front of it. He got his own lawyer, And you can hear throughout this interview so far that there were intentionally reach outs by the Trump team and the Trump lawyers in particular to offer up attorneys, to offer up golf passes, to phone calls from the boss in this case. Again, draw your own conclusions. We're here to simply provide this information. Please like and share the lives, friends. We really, really appreciate that. We'll get back to it.
I'm good.
So not only did you feel pressured to get an attorney, you were also being offered tickets and FaceTime with the former president.
That's what he said. He said he'd love to see you. Well,
did Carlos ever imply to you, given your close friendship, I mean, the fact that you're neighbors, you knew his wife, you guys had decades of friendship, did he ever imply to you that he might be in trouble?
He said everything will be fine, that kind of attitude. I never, maybe a couple times I saw him maybe a little nervous, but overall, I think he feels like this is going to go away.
Did the two of you ever talk about moving boxes or looking back on that?
Yeah, I mean, there was one time towards one of the last times I was with him, and we're talking about, boxes and, well, Biden did the same thing. You can't get, it always got brought up about Biden and other people.
So I want to call that out because I heard that earlier. So we know that MAGA people who join our lives spit it all the time about Biden, same side, two sides of the same coin, and Biden did it too. Literally, the people on the inside of this are making that same argument while this is going on. That's crazy. That is crazy. Man.
People that did the same thing. And then there was one time he said, we're all dirty. We all move boxes. And I said, well, look, I didn't even know what I was moving until I was at the plane. And that's when I remember moving boxes.
You know the property really well. And one thing that we read about in the indictment that the prosecutor said was that essentially there were thousands of guests that had come through Mar A Lago.
Thousands.
In the period that the documents were there.
Right.
We know they were kept in all kinds of public places. I mean, how secure would you say Mar A Lago is?
I think they would start cutting carbs. I need to drop my...
Hold on. Sorry.
This is a really important section. People need to pay attention to what he's going to say next.
Yep. Stand by. So she asked the question, how secure do you think Mar A Lago is? How many guests are there? He said thousands. So that's where we're at.
There's been some very public instances of people sneaking on property. Look, I think it's secure, but there were definitely a lot of gaps where people could get in very easily.
Who had access to the rooms where the documents were kept?
I don't know if a master key, but I mean, like, I could have went and got a master key to all the rooms, for check-ins. I oversaw all the check-ins with the valets, all of that. So, I mean, feasibly at night, anybody could.
Who made the call where these boxes were kept? The Pine Hall and the ballroom.
Pine Hall was always guarded. You didn't have to worry about any security breaches for Pine Hall. But, definitely the lake room, which is pretty much close to almost above Pine Hall. I mean, anybody could just go around a spiral staircase, turn left, and there it is.
Anybody could access that room?
Well, I'm sure you needed a key, but yeah, I mean, there were multiple ways to get to the lake room.
How many people had a key, if you had to guess?
I'm assuming they didn't change if they had the same lock. Oh my gosh. They're probably over 10 keys, 20 keys. All the managers had master keys.
Do you view Trump as a national security risk?
I personally would just say I just don't believe that he should be a presidential candidate at this time. I think it's time to move on.
Does it concern you that, he very
I think
well
it should
be.
concern, yeah, absolutely. I think we can do better.
You're obviously a central witness in this case. If it goes to trial, are you prepared to testify?
Absolutely, yes, absolutely.
His attorneys are trying to get it pushed, though, past the election. Do you believe that this trial should happen before the election?
I think the American people have the right to know the facts, that this is not a witch hunt. He can go out on TV and say this. That's one of the reasons for doing this. And quote, the PRA says this and that. It's all bogus. But people believe him.
You think it's a fair investigation?
Absolutely. I mean, to me, you have the law and order president attacking agents, the special counsel, on almost a daily basis. When these people are just taking their sworn oath, they took a sworn oath to basically follow the laws of this country, and now you have somebody attacking them. I don't think that's right.
It must feel like you're choosing between loyalty to your friends and telling the truth.
Absolutely, and there's no person that wants loyalty more than the former president. I mean, he says it all the time.
Given how other people who have been in Trump's orbit and left and told the truth and how they've been treated, did it ever make you hesitate to?
No, look, I was always going to tell the truth. But, after one of the interviews with the investigators on this case, I think it got real when at the end of it was either my second or fourth time talking to them, where they said at the end of it, oh, by the way, all of your grand jury testimony and witness testimony has been turned over to the Trump defense. At that point, you're like, oh boy,
Did it make you nervous?
Yeah, a little bit, but I don't want to live in fear. I mean, we're only here for a finite time. To me, I refuse to live in fear like that. I mean, yes, cautious, but I'm going to tell the truth.
And those investigators had actually encouraged you to not talk to Carlos.
They did.
What were they worried about, do you think?
I remember one time one of the members of the special counsel's team said, they worry about maybe he records you or maybe he's going to use stuff against you. It was a tough time. I mean, I remember, we were so close. So I remember, he sent me a text one day after I had kind of avoided him. And it's like, you never called me back.
This is the gentleman who's talking, what you're looking at. He's being interviewed by Caitlin Collins from CNN. He's identified as Brian Butler. He is listed as employee number 5 in the superseding indictment. Remember, there's 2 indictments for Mar A Lago, the initial indictment, and then there's the superseding indictment, which include different additional names like Carlos de Oliveira and Yuscil Tavares, along with employees 3, 4, 5, whoever they might be. So this is the gentleman that's speaking, and he's being interviewed by CNN's Caitlin Collins.
What did I do to you, or something like that? And it really hurt. I mean, I literally said, "Are you home?" And I went to his house, and I said, "Look, I've been told really we need to keep our distance." And I think his response is, "Yeah, I know you've changed and this and that, but I'm torn. I'm trying to do what they say, but I'm also trying to be a friend to my best friend. And I'm not trying to hurt him by giving testimony or anything. I mean, this is the thing I see. This guy the former president has divided the nation like I've never seen before. And he's now divided like my best friend since I was 19 years old, almost. We've been friends for so long. And just think, now you're just, I don't know. It's just it sucks.
Well, the two of you are so close. And to go from having that and to having it, now where you are, where you can't speak, it makes me remember this, something that Trump's Attorney General Bill Barr once said to me, which was that Trump kind of leaves this path of carnage in his wake of the people around him that become wrapped up in these investigations and scandals. And is that what you feel like?
Well, I felt like it was a total no-win situation for me. I mean, they're asking me questions about one of my best friends. I'm being honest, but I also have a bad feeling that what I'm saying is getting him into trouble. It's just nobody should have to go through that. And, for him to get up there all the time and say the things he says about, about this being a witch hunt and everything, it's all, he just can't take responsibility for anything.
It's really notable to hear this coming from you because you are someone who was loyal to him. You worked for him for forever. You know him really well. And so I just wonder, that once this is public, he'll try to distance himself from you or downplay your role. How will you respond to that?
No, I expect nothing less. It's fine. I know the truth. Look, I'm not saying him and I were best friends and talked every day, but he knew who I was. I knew who he was.
How do you view Trump as a person now?
Unfavorably would be the, to put it easy, mildly.
How important is it for you here to tell the truth?
No, I mean, that's all we can do. I haven't tried to skirt anything with investigators or anything. I feel it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing for the country. I mean, this is so much bigger than me. It's bigger than Carlos. This is a nation that needs to decide who's going to be the next president.
Were there ever any instances when you were still working there that you witnessed where Trump was, in your view, carelessly throwing around national security information?
This really, stood out to me, but in, I believe it was April of 2021, there was a member, Anthony Pratt, who he was coming, he flew in the night before.
He's an Australian billionaire.
He finishes his meeting with the former president, gets in the car, and his chief of staff says, "How did the meeting go?" Pratt, without saying, just says, "He told me, and it would be, U.S. military, classified information of what he told him about Russian submarines and U.S. submarines." And that's really all I remember hearing. And I went, what? I'm thinking this. I'm in the car. I'm like, did I just hear that? So it wasn't like, oh, the meeting went well. We talked about he went straight to the point. He told me that the U.S. subs and with the Russian subs and,
Just to recap that, this guy, again, MAGA's going to look to say that this is hearsay. He was the driver. Brian Butler was the driver in that car, seated with this Mr. Pratt, this Australian billionaire. There'll be more about this story coming up in just a minute. Talking to his chief of staff, saying that Donald Trump showed me information about Russian submarines, U.S. submarines, and their capabilities. Now, I don't know much about the military, Anthony, but what I do know is you don't talk about subs. Is that true?
Absolutely correct. Here's how much people like myself who served in the Navy know about subs. We have submarines.
There you go. Okay, back at it.
Something that would more than likely, in my mind, be classified.
So it was clear to you that he was basically seeking access to Trump.
Oh, absolutely.
Influence peddling.
I mean, red flags went up in my mind years before that.
So Anthony Pratt, this Australian billionaire that you're talking about, he would pay a lot of money to come and have these New Year's Eve parties in Mar A Lago.
So it might cost $1,000, $1,500 per person. He was giving $1 million. And I think at the height, he had 30 or 40 people there. So something that would be 50,000, let's just say max 50. Here's a guy that's just buying access. It's very easy to see.
Watch this.
Okay. So, your first thoughts while I switch microphones, Anthony.
Well, credible witness who has nothing to hide and every advantage gained by telling the truth. This is what people who are innocent do, or persons who participated in an event when they realized that they need to tell the truth. He may, and it appears that he was fairly an unwilling participant in this, right? He wasn't a part of the conspiracy. He wasn't really involved in knowing. He was just simply doing what he was told. I think what's really fantastic about this is that all of the other issues in the superseding indictment, this is where we establish the threads and connect the dots, right? This witness, number 5, here,
Brian Butler.
Brian Butler. I was trying to, I feel conflicted in using his name, but I guess he's come out publicly. Mm-hmm. So Mr. Butler basically really is helping with the outline of the obstruction of justice. He's literally walking through how they obstructed, why they did what they did. why they coordinated in the manner that they did. It's also quite clear that Team Trump understood that that they needed to try to pay this guy off, right? Get an attorney so that he'll only say what they want to say.
Correct.
Give him gifts, right? Get him special time with the president. Who in the right mind would want 5 minutes with that guy? I don't know. But they thought that was a carrot they could dangle. And where integrity and scruples come into play is where you go like, hey, you know what? I realize that I'm in a really precarious position. I'm just going to go at it alone. And I don't care how much it's going to cost me. Right. And so I think that's what we have in this witness. It's where we really get to see the stark differences between someone willing to turn over and consistently throughout his career turn stuff over, when asked, said, come take a look at whatever you want. I'm totally fine with it. Immediately, they went. He turned stuff over. They look at President Biden and said, "Oh, okay, yep, he had some stuff he probably definitely shouldn't have had. He let us come get it." And then we have this conspiracy afoot, right? Very akin to what one would find in a RICO case, right? Where you have multiple parties conspiring to obstruct, right? And to obfuscate what was really going on. This is super fascinating. And this type of public statement, now that he's been freed to do it, now we know that Jack Smith all along had all four aces.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, this is like another shoe dropping, another shoe dropping, another shoe dropping. There's no getting out of this, right? There's no immunity to protect you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you were a civilian and you obstructed justice, period, full stop. So it'll be interesting to see what shoe drops next. It's very fascinating. There's quite a spirited discussion going in the comments, so that's awesome. People are policing themselves, which is fantastic. Thank you. I'm trying to stay out of it, but I'm really interested in where we go next with this, and where you're going to take us. I know where you're going because we talked,
yeah.
But there's so much here to unpack, and I don't think we'll be able to get through all of it tonight, but I think we'll be able to get through enough that really establishes things. And because I'm in charge of making corrections, it's super important that when we talk about Signal, that I note that it is a 501c, that it is not a publicly traded company. And because I'm the type of guy that writes this information, I want to read something really quick, because there's a lot of misinformation about what this company does. So
just to put it into context, this witness was asked to basically recap the conversation and put it in Signal, which is an app, or you'll tell us what it is, but doesn't keep the records, so to speak.
Yeah, so there's some misinformation about that. I'm going to straighten that out. So under the Signal terms and privacy policy, and I actually probably know who wrote this, there is a section that is in every privacy policy: information we may share. The first subsection is third parties, so it explains how data is exchanged with third parties. Then comes the most important section of any privacy. This is the stuff that I'm telling people that they really should read. Other instances where Signal may need to share your data to meet any applicable law, regulation, legal process, or enforceable governmental request. I will tell you, because it's a matter of public record, that Signal has already had several subpoenas and requests for information, and they have successfully navigated them all and turned over the data that is required. Signal in no way can not provide this if law enforcement asks for it. So while the people in the Trump camp made a lot of assumptions, as I just read to everyone, as every company is legally liable and held to the same standard. If you are subpoenaed, you have to follow that subpoena. Now, you can try to go fight it in court. Good luck with that. But I just wanted to bring that up because it's super, super important that people understand that the purpose behind the Trump camp trying to use it was because they believed that whatever they said, their data would be protected forever. But as I just pointed out, that is actually not the truth. And if I may, I would like to slide into our disclaimer because I think it's a good segue.
Sure.
TikTok, it is our intention during these live broadcasts to only provide fact-based information and to the absolute best of our ability. We strive to never spread misinformation or to platform those that do. The opinions of our guests or commenters are theirs and theirs alone that do not reflect those of the hosts. Hate speech is not allowed, and we are diligent about policing it. The platform is for educational purposes only.
Thank you, sir.
Tap that screen.
Yeah, tap and like and please and like and share. We would really appreciate that. There's a gifting goal set up this evening. This is my backup. It looks like who knows what's up with the main. The review is still pending, but it looks like even though that's still pending, it comes off tomorrow, so we'll switch back to the main tomorrow night. But the thing that I think to me that really stands out is the brazen attempt to obstruct justice. And then it's confirmed over and over again from testimony from Walt Nauta, testimony from Carlos de Oliveira, now Brian Butler's testimony, and it, thank you, Cookie. Sweet. The specifics around the efforts that they went through to obstruct justice. The sort of little sidebar conversations, a wink and a nod. Even Brian Butler, who is the transportation coordinator. So think about like he's the chief valet, basically, is kind of how you look at it. So you need a car, you go through him. He's a driver. So, the acknowledgement that Walt kind of said, I need a minivan, which he thought was out of the ordinary. Like, okay, that's out of the ordinary. And then the minivan comes back and there's a whole bunch of boxes and Brian's just unloading the boxes and then handing them to the pilot, and that plane goes back to Bedminster. Then we have the audio tape of him sharing what was still classified, even admittedly so from Trump himself. The documents were still classified to people who don't have security clearance. We know from the indictment that the attorneys signed attestation statements claiming that they turned over everything when in fact they didn't. He confirms more boxes being moved by Walt and by Carlos. Conversations with Yacil Tavares, who's the IT director. How long does security footage stay? How long do we keep it? Can we delete it? These are all the things that are referenced in the indictment and the superseding indictment. And then this gentleman more or less says, yeah, these are all the things that were happening. I was contacted directly. You heard that brief sound clip of a member of the Trump legal team reaching out to him and saying, hey, I just heard you got a grand jury subpoena. Give me a call. Those are mob tactics. That's what was done back in the day. When Roy Cohn, that's what was done. You petition, you bring legal counsel on, you add it to the people, you demand loyalty. Think about the people who are in a position who can't afford a lawyer, right? Don't worry, we got you. Here's the thing. Just be loyal. Just remember who got you the attorney. Just remember who bought you the house. Yeah. Just remember who got you tickets at the Lakers game. So, again, MAGA. We have evidence. For those of you who are veterans in particular, and that's really those of you who served in the Navy, I want to speak directly to you for just a second. We now have, again, confirmed witness testimony, not hearsay, from a gentleman that was in the car, the driver of that car, conversation between an Australian billionaire who paid $1 million to gain access to President Trump and was shown information about Russian subs and U.S. subs. And you can infer from that what that means. But to Anthony's point, the fact that he served in the Navy and knew nothing about our sub program by design, and Donald Trump is sharing them with an Australian billionaire. And there's reporting that guy shared that information with more than a dozen people. I would call that treasonous, quite frankly.
Yeah.
So if anybody has any questions or if there's anything that you would like to discuss, the box is wide open. I know we like to normally try to say that we'll reserve the first couple of hours for ops, but I don't get the sense we're going to get a lot of opposition tonight. I really don't.
I don't know. It's very spirited in the comment section, much more so than last night. So I feel positive that somebody's going to want to come up and say what they got to say.
Yeah, I agree. And keeping in mind, I think I saw Dave. Dave, if you're there, would you mind jumping in? I think what I remember, I guess my assumption is that you don't even get 20% in an indictment of the information that the prosecutors might have.
Right.
So we're starting, we hear more and more things. We get more information from the superseding indictments. We get more interviews. We get more nuggets, little breadcrumbs here and there. We get this interview, and I would imagine the prosecutors are like, hmm. And then, ironically enough, the defense of the Trump team is we got to do everything we can so this trial doesn't happen.
Yep.
If you didn't do it, wouldn't you want to go to court? Everybody's entitled to a defense. Everybody's entitled to working the system to the best of their ability. I totally get it. I believe in the rule of law, and I do find it interesting that Mr. Butler in that interview referenced that. The president who claims to be the president for the rule of law,
Right.
the law and order president, literally breaking the law at every turn. Breaking the law at every turn. So that's what's on the plate. It's for people who claim to be patriots in our country. We understand your loyalty for Trump, right? We understand your loyalty. We get it. We understand your devotion. We get it. We understand your cult-like behavior. We get it. But you cannot claim to be a patriot. You cannot claim to be a patriot and be okay with this behavior. You should want him held accountable. You can pivot back to Biden. No problem. We've already addressed that. We know that Robert Hur cleared Joe Biden of any criminality. Full cooperation. And as a reminder, the Mar A Lago documents case is about obstruction of justice. That's what this is about. The reason that the Espionage Act is then added is because the obstruction of justice led to the willful retention of national defense information.
Yep.
So it's no wonder they don't want this case to go to trial. It's no wonder, because what's the defense?
None.
I don't know what it would be.
I mean, we have direct. Jack Smith has direct testimony from interviews that these
Correct.
things happened. Right.
Correct.
So,
and people in his inner circle,
Right.
Republicans, members of his
Right.
team, his staff, his confidants.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dr. J, he did clear Joe Biden. Actually, you're wrong about that. I can read it again for you if you'd like. He did clear him. But maybe I'll just do that just to make it easier for Dr. J. This is for you in particular. This is going to be a very special reading. This is from page 254 of the Robert Hur report into the investigation into authorized removal and disclosure of classified information. Page 254 for those of you who are following along at home. It is not our role to assess the criminal charges pending against Mr. Trump, but several material distinctions between Mr. Trump's case and Mr. Biden's are very clear. Unlike the evidence involving Mr. Biden, the allegations set forth in the indictment of Mr. Trump, if proven, would clearly establish not only Mr. Trump's willfulness, but also serious aggravating facts. Most notably, after being given multiple chances to return classified documents and avoid prosecution, Mr. Trump allegedly did the opposite. According to the indictment, he not only refused to return the documents for months, but he also obstructed justice by enlisting others to destroy evidence and then to lie about it. In contrast, Mr. Biden alerted authorities, turned in classified documents to the National Archives and the DOJ in 2022 and 2023, consented to the search of multiple locations, including his homes, permitted the seizure and review of handwritten notebooks he believed to be his personal property, and in numerous other ways cooperated with the investigation. That would be clearing him of charges. So, again, MAGA, the question for you then is, we know you don't care about SA. We know you don't care about his lies. We know you don't care that he's claimed to be a dictator. We know you don't care that he's a fraud. We know you don't care that he cozies up to Putin and to Kim Jong-un and to Viktor Orban. Do you care about our military? Do you care about putting men and women who serve our country in harm's way? Do you care about that at all? I don't think you do. And those of you who serve, or either have or are currently, and you support Trump, I would call you an oath-breaking traitor as well. So that's it. That's it. That's the case. You can read this for yourself. I mean, we know that you don't read. That's why I wanted to play the audio for you so that you could hear it. And the interview is available. You know, this gentleman will probably be doing the circuit. He can still testify. He has a right to speak. So, influence peddling, bribery, corruption, obstruction of justice, willful retention of national defense information. Add it to the list. So the box is open. If anybody has any questions about topics that we discussed this evening or anything else, we're happy to speak to anybody this evening. Again, I want to thank everybody for participating. This topic is incredibly important and it's dangerous. And you hear it from people in his inner circle about how he looks at him unfavorably. He doesn't think that he should be in the office. He is. If there's any question that he is a national security threat, I don't know how you could think otherwise. Quite frankly.
Yeah.
You know, we know that Jack Teixeira, who's the guardsman from Maryland, or maybe I'm not exactly sure where, he was during either it was in Discord or a gaming room, shared classified information, and he took a plea deal. He's now going to jail.
Yep.
And he wasn't the president of the United States. And I think we can officially end the conversation about a two-tier justice system, because there's no one who's gotten more latitude during this than Donald Trump. No one.
Yeah.
No one. Yeah, 18 years. Thank you, Nikki. Appreciate that. So, MAGA, nothing to say. Really, really busy with your. I know you're all two-finger typists in the chat, but you're unwilling to come in the box and talk to us. Why? Why is that? We just want your opinion on it. I just want to know. You're right, Dark Tragic. They can't defend it. They can't defend it. Literally, how do you defend this? You can't defend an attestation statement being signed, claiming that all the documents are turned over. You can't defend that. You can't defend, pressure campaigns. It's just like.
It's interesting with 600 plus people in here that no one who is a Republican, a conservative, MAGA, whatever labels we'd like to throw out at them, wants to jump into the box. But I keep seeing comments like Joe Biden shared classified information. Okay, well, if you know something everybody else doesn't,
yeah, jump in,
come up to the box.
And right? I think it was Grilla who made a very interesting point, and we know that he's broke, he being Trump. So talk about vulnerability.
Yeah.
So, again, to try to draw some comparisons, the entire Biden impeachment. What about Biden? The entire impeachment's been connected to money laundering and influence peddling and all these things, and there's no evidence to support any of that. And all we have is evidence of Donald Trump. Thousands of people coming in and out of Mar A Lago, doors that you can easily get a key to, rooms where the documents were found, easy access, conversations that billionaires have with their aide in a car driven by the person whose interview we just heard, saying, "Oh yeah, he showed me information about Russian subs and the whole 9 yards." Like, come on.
Yeah.
It's staggering. And anyone, I don't care who you are, if you have any credibility or honor or integrity at all, you should be appalled already. But if things like this don't tip the scales for you, then there's no hope. There's just no hope.
Yeah,
and I know this stuff bothers you significantly, Anthony.
Yeah, I was just going to go to where's the line? What does your Lord and Savior, Donald J. Trump, have to do to lose your loyalty? what limits do you place on this person? Or do you really think he's the second coming of Christ and that he can do no wrong and he can do whatever he wants, right? I'm as a veteran, I'm perplexed because I remember taking the oath, right? It's not super complicated, not hard to say, except for the state your name part, because you hear everybody else saying their name and then inevitably
Hang on one second. Tom
somebody else's name.
Tom Lefrenier 603, I just sent you an invite because you said that you're appalled and bothered that TikTok hasn't taken us down for misinformation. I sent you an invite, Tom, so please come up and tell us what we are providing, what misinformation we're sharing. But thank you. I appreciate that. Sorry.
Tom Fahrenheit 603, you said? I didn't even see
Tom
that.
Lefrenier 603. Tom seems to be appalled and bothered that TikTok hasn't taken us down for misinformation.
The host and his Jerry Garcia guest has no proof of any information that there's. Well, first of all, may I say to you, Tom?
Not an insult.
Referring to me as Jerry Garcia, bro, like, fucking thank you. If I could play the guitar this much of my pinky to the same level as Jerry Garcia,
facts.
First of all, I would be on TikTok live, but I would be having jam sessions.
Correct.
Right? Thank you. Although, for the record, while I am a person in recovery, I did not like the combination of Diet Coke, Doritos, and heroin. I just want to put that out there, that wasn't my thing.
Educational purposes only, TikTok?
Educational purposes only. And that it is true. I am a fucking huge fan of the Grateful Dead.
Tom Lefrenier, so you're not going to get in the box when you're just going to get booted by proving you wrong. Well, why don't you find out, Tom? Why don't you jump in the box and prove us wrong, and let's see how it goes. And
does he have enough followers? I guess he does. You can invite him, right?
Yeah, invite him again. Come on, Tom.
And he's got a Cash App too.
Yeah, we'll have a conversation, Tom. So 639 people want to hear what you have to say, Tom.
This dude's got 10. Listen. First of all, may I grovel a little bit, ladies and gentlemen in the audience? If you are not following me, please consider following me. I can't even get to 2,000 followers. Now I can spend $100 or maybe $300 to get 10,000 followers gifted to me by a company. I'd rather earn them. But Tom here has 10,000 followers.
Tom paid for it.
So if you feel that I am as sexy as Jerry Garcia and can play guitar like Jerry Garcia, please give me a follow. And for the record, my lovely wife, Jennifer, is listening. Sweetheart, I put on the shirt that we bought on a particular island when we got married. So I just want to I had to change because Fax was looking good, and I'm in like a schlubby t-shirt that really should be retired. So
everybody, please, if you haven't followed the co-host, please do so. Anthony is one of the smartest people I've ever met on this app, and I'm honored to have him as my co-host. Hi, Jen. We just classed up the joint, that's for sure.
Yeah. Wave, honey, to people.
Hi,
Jen. Everybody, please follow Anthony. Let's get him above a couple K. That should be easy. So, Mr. Lefrenier 603, you've probably left now because you got called out. I don't know why you wouldn't just jump in the chat and jump in the box and talk to us. I mean, it would be easy to have that conversation.
Yeah, it's just so weird. Somebody with that many followers that would be afraid to jump in the box.
Yeah,
I don't.
Actually, I want to know what misinformation I'm spreading. I mean, it's concerning.
And thank you to all the people clapping back at me with a hi, honey. I freaking love that.
Hi, honey.
I happen to love my wife, and so I address her appropriately.
Yeah.
Normally, it's yes, ma'am, or yes, Jen, or whatever you want. But honey sometimes seems to suffice too. After 20 years,
it works.
It's a freaking miracle that I actually found a woman that's willing to put up with me for more than 10 seconds. So
we have another deadhead in the house. So that's
by the way,
you've got to follow from a fellow deadhead. Yep.
Oh, another deadhead?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So total amount of Grateful Dead and various incarnations, including Dead and Company, I'm at 135 shows.
I think I told you. I think I'm at like 40, somewhere in that range. Some I don't remember, quite frankly. That's not a good thing. There was a particular summer that is a blur, literally. Anywho, so I think JD requested we'll bring somebody up and we can have a conversation with our friend JD since the box is open. Box is open, friends. Please like and share. Good evening, JD.
Hey, I just thought I'd tell you something that I was told. When people are, you get a warning or something, saying this for educational purposes only may or may not help you. But if you say something like "I like TikTok Shop," it helps.
I'll remember that. I love TikTok Shop. That's
Absolutely.
that's my proactive approach to avoid getting suspended again.
Yes.
Yep.
And Anthony, would you like a name of a very romantic song to play for your wife?
Yes. Hold on.
I'm going to write it down too.
Hold on now.
I need a new romantic song.
I've
shared some good ones recently, but I need another one.
This one is a very simple title for you.
By the Beatles?
Because I'm simple-minded.
And it's by John Denver, and he wrote it for his second wife.
Oh, okay.
And he debuted it with Princess Di and Prince Charles in the audience.
Well, there you go.
You ought to hear the song he wrote for her when they divorced. It's titled "Get Your Tongue Out of My Mouth Because I'm Kissing You Goodbye."
Okay. Well, there you go.
I like Anthony's face on that one.
Well, it's just like Lindsey Buckingham's classic on the Rumors album, Never Going Back Again. That's literally about Stevie Nicks. Like, I'm done. I'm not going back. That's it. Game over. Never going back. That's pretty funny. So did you get a chance to listen to what we went through, JD?
No, I just got up here from eating dinner.
No. Anything good?
Mom made pork chops.
Nice. Wow. That's nice. Applesauce, too?
No.
Chops and applesauce.
I'd love to have some applesauce.
Yeah. Thank you for that tip. We appreciate it. I'm sure we'll put it to good use.
Yep.
There you go.
Talk to you later.
Talk to you later. Thank you.
Ciao.
Little Mott's.
Hey,
go ahead.
I was seeing that
Didn't I drop?
I got you.
There were some very interesting comments around the TikTok shop, right? And I once, early on, somebody had I think it was when the Ice Cube thing really started taking off, right? And so I went to the TikTok shop. Now listen, there's a lot of really cool stuff out there, but I need to give a public service warning. It is a freaking black hole. You will fall into the TikTok shop and all of a sudden 2 or 3 hours may go. So just be careful.
Be careful. It's true.
Because it's like QVC, for those of us that remember QVC. You can get lost in there. So do be careful and please spend your money wisely. Coming soon to a TikTok shop near you will be team shirts that we really haven't designed, talked about, discussed pricing.
That's right.
But Crow and Arrow, if you're out there, we may need team shirts to sell.
Help a couple brothers out.
Yeah, and maybe my intention, of course, is always to give money to veterans organizations.
Schools for me.
Or to help the houseless. So
good call.
Just a thought.
And speaking of that, so I'm going to ask the chat for their opinion here, since we're kind of off the rails a moment. So I get these requests very often from the TikTok shop to promote product, and I really don't want to do it, but I'm feeling like I could do it and kind of have some fun with it, like things that would be completely not something you would see me use, like whatever it might be, like hair product that I could get frosted tips with, things like that.
Bro, can we get like free
I'll never
shampoo
do
and
it,
shit?
but what?
If we could get like free shampoo and stuff, I'll listen.
There may not be enough shampoo available on TikTok shop for you, buddy.
I will whore myself for the right face and hair products.
We love TikTok shop. We love TikTok shop.
Love TikTok shop.
Right. So anyway, back to the topic at hand. We're looking for conversations this evening about what we went through. So what we played earlier, for those of you interested, and maybe we can spin it again in a little while, but we have some pretty damning testimony from Brian Butler, who's been identified as employee number 5. Yeah, that's pretty funny. Thank you, Nicole. Employee number 5, Brian Butler, and his interview with Caitlin Collins. It's everywhere. There's one on YouTube. That's the version that I pulled, the one from YouTube, because it's without ads except for one in the middle. Talking about his experience working for the boss and moving boxes and moving documents, and it's pretty damning. And to be honest, when I pivoted on Anthony last minute, I didn't expect that we would get a lot of activity from MAGA because I don't think that there's a lot to discuss. So with that being said, if you don't mind, Anthony, I'm going to pivot a little bit to what we talked about
You
earlier.
call an audible?
About the Biden budget.
Ooh.
Are you cool with that?
Fuck yes.
Okay.
It's numbers.
Yeah. There's been preliminary budget information released from the Biden administration, and it's everything. We'll talk about two different things. We'll talk about omnibus bills, and that's something that's in my sweet spot because I love the legislative side of this conversation. But specifically, the Biden budget highlights the things that we all talked about, the changes that we'd like to see to our tax code, wants to tax the rich, wants to raise corporate tax rates, wants to raise tax rates for the wealthiest in our country, generating $3 trillion to pay down the debt, wants to prop up Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, wants to prop up educational programs, after school programs, free preschool, things like that. Joe Biden is a hardcore capitalist. He is a capitalist's best friend, but he's also smart and realizes that to have an economy that works for everybody, it literally needs to work for everybody. So you prop up the middle class, you create opportunities within the middle class, you talk about livable wages, you talk about penalties for people who violate labor laws, you talk about increasing the tax rate, you tax speculation in Wall Street, all these things that his corporate daddies will hate, but he gets it. And I know that there's some interesting data regarding the VA in there too, Anthony, that I know that you saw. Feel free whenever you're ready.
Yeah, so let's just hit some of the highlights. And this is on page 121 of 188 pages under Department of Veteran Affairs. So these are proposals. That's all it is. Expands healthcare benefits and services for environmental exposure. The Sergeant First Class Heath Robinson honoring our promise to address comprehensive toxics Act of 2022, the PACT Act. They want an additional amount of monies. So that budget item commitment includes 24.5 billion going into the budget. They also want to strengthen VA care, adding a additional 112.6, or no, the total budget would be 112.6 billion. And there are some new line items there. They want to have advances for the Biden Cancer Moonshot, which will help men and women who served in the military who had to deal with burn pits. This is a super duper important one. Prioritizing veterans' mental health services and suicide prevention. The budget will invest $135 million new dollars within VA research programs. Supporting women's veterans' health care, right? An additional set of funds for that. Bolster efforts to end veterans' homelessness. Now, if you go through the last 20 plus years of budgets, this has never been a called out separate line item. And it says here, this is important. The president believes that every veteran should have permanent, safe, and sustainable housing with access to health care and other supportive services. The budget invests $3.2 billion to end current veteran homelessness and to prevent veterans from becoming homeless in the future. How many dollars did President Trump in his 4 years commit to this? That would be 0.00. Invest in overdose prevention and treatment programs. Instead of putting them in jail or rounding them up and having them in encampments in open spaces, as Trump would like to do, the Biden administration would like to carve out $713 million toward prevention and treatment programs for veterans. Side note, as someone who serves on Veterans Court and as someone who works with veterans with drug and alcohol addiction issues, I can tell you that this is sorely needed. And I don't necessarily think it goes far enough, but we'll take what we can get. Honoring the memory of all veterans to ensure veterans and their families have access to exceptional memorial benefits, which basically helps with burials and headstones and stuff like that. Because right now everybody gets $10,000, and that won't even cover the cost of the funeral. So that's a carve out for $495 million in the budget. Invest in veterans' medical and other facilities. Modernize VA information technology. That's something guys like me have been screaming about for 20 years. Jesus Christ, it's 2024. Hello. Get off of AOL and get into the modern age. Claims and processing benefit delivery, making that faster, better, stronger. And the last line item, invest in housing. The budget provides $326 million in discretionary housing loan program administration resources aiding veterans in buying, building, improving, or refinancing a home. The budget supports program modernization, loss mitigation efforts to keep veterans in their homes, and the administration Justice 40 and property appraisal valuation equity initiatives. That one is super important because for those of us who weren't paying attention during the ramp up of Afghanistan and the Iraq wars, veterans were being called up into the National Guard, and because banks had packaged all of their mortgages together into mortgage-backed securities, people were losing their homes, even though they weren't allowed to lose their home, because when you get called to active duty, everything goes on pause, right? And so this will help prevent things like that in the future. So I really hope that a veteran wants to hop up in the box. I think I saw one of my veteran brothers make a comment. Even if you're friendly for this particular aspect, if you have something to say about your experience with the VA and how more money could help, it would be fantastic for you to come up here. That way I don't have to keep droning on and putting people to sleep.
I appreciate you breaking that down as you and I discussed. One of the things that this is a civics opportunity for me, and I love this shit, as you know, Anthony. Your math is my legislation. People complain about what's referred to as an omnibus spending bill. It's typical. Yep. That's how government works. So we hear the talking point from the right all the time that you want single issue bills. It's impossible. And the analogy that I gave Anthony earlier today is your household budget. For those of you who have a household budget, not many people do. You have a budget and you allocate money for your internet, for your groceries, for your car repairs, for entertainment. That's basically the boiled down version of how government works. You have various levels of appropriations from defense to HUD to all the organizations that have cabinet secretaries and then their undersecretaries. So that's how budgets work. It's impossible to run a government our size with a single issue, with a single line item. What people, I think, are referring to, and that you can use these examples, would be things like a ballot measure. So when you go and vote for a particular thing, like abortion rights, we know that that's been on a lot of ballot measures recently. That's a line item that you're voting for. But that's not how budget works. That's not how it works. I'll give you a real good example. So you might complain about a budget that Congress is deliberating on. But then all of a sudden you realize that railroad bridge that's been falling down in your neighborhood for the past 30 years is suddenly built. That's because your congressman or woman went to bat for you and said, my district needs this. If you want my vote for this budget, then I need that appropriation. That's kind of how it works. I'm trying to keep it at 100,000 feet, but that's more or less how it works. So infrastructure bill, for example, people say there's a lot of pork in it, and there is, but that's because everybody wants a slice of that pie. What I find fascinating, and Joe Biden called this out during the State of the Union, and he's running his ads, which I think is brilliant because Trump promised infrastructure every single day and couldn't deliver, and Joe Biden delivered. A lot of people who voted against that bill are trying to take credit for the monies that are being appropriated for those programs. I think there's 46,000. There's a Department of Transportation has a really good website. It's very interactive. You can go to their website and you can look you can look at the projects that are listed that are currently being funded by the Biden infrastructure bill. Yes, this is anecdotal, but I have a friend of mine who's a bigwig in a construction company in my state, and there's a project that's been on hold for years. And a few weeks ago, I was driving by it, and I'm like, I saw his trucks. I'm like, yo, what's going on? He's like, federal money from the infrastructure bill. So it's stuff like that. Those are how those things happen. So for those of you who have delusions about single line budgets, it's not going to happen. There's just no way. No government can run that way. It's impossible. Is there too much pork in our federal budgets? Absolutely. Nobody would disagree. But pork's not always bad. Okay? Think bacon. Think bacon or stale pork rinds. Which would you rather have? I'd rather have bacon, personally. Exactly. So that's kind of how it works. Did we call for Cronero? We kind of did, because we need merch, apparently.
We need merch for the TikTok store. By the way, the TikTok store, awesome. Hey, I know there was a retired Marine in there. Devil Dog, brother, come on, man. Just get up in the box. You and I will have a conversation. No one is going to attack anyone.
That's right.
But I would love to hear what you have to say, man. So I know. Oh, he's still in the comments? I didn't know if he left. The comments go by so fast sometimes. I swear to you, I cannot differentiate words. And then sometimes it pauses. It's really weird. I don't get that at all. But I would love it if you'd come up. And if he doesn't want to come up, he doesn't want to come up, right? So, what are you gonna do?
And I was trying to think about like fax colloquialisms that we would use for merch. I could be like, you're in a cult. Or it could be, you have a day.
Oh.
So
what was the, do you remember? I think this is before you and I really started talking, or it may have been around that time. You were going to have an award.
Oh, the Spudsy. Yeah.
Oh, the Spudsy.
And I did one. I need, that's funny to remind. I need to bring that back. Good call. I did one in January, which was it was from live. You guys might remember this, but gentleman tried to own me on Keystone XL, and he asked Alexa for information on it, and Alexa basically said, no, bro, you're wrong. And then he said whatever and left. And I gave that guy the Spudsy.
Yeah.
And thanks to Wiseacre for that design, by the way, if you're out there, brother.
Hey, by the way, been following Wiseacre, really enjoy his content.
He's great.
I would like to have my fact funnel, and then we can have different, we could build a fact funnel, right? And are you in a cult, and then put the reasons why you're in a cult, right?
Oh yeah,
that would be fun.
And I got a text from one of our mods. What did you have for dinner? And then I kicked them. Like nobody cares. What did you have for dinner? ... Nobody cares. That's a good call. I like that one a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, Colorado Mom, you heard that when it happened. That was hilarious. That week of lives was very interesting. There was a lot of interesting comments that week.
Anytime somebody shouts at a device to get information, and then that device keeps giving you the information you don't want.
That's right.
Is there anything better than that?
I know.
mean, that was fantastic audio.
Top of the show, we started with just to kind of level set. Thank you, everybody. Continue to tap and like and share. Let's see if we can get 100K here, if we could do that. And if you'd like to support the channel, in my bio, on both my backup and on my main account, there are Linktree. There are Cash App, PayPal, and Venmo for myself. There's a Cash App that's set up for Anthony. If you like what we do, we appreciate it. We're not here schlepping for that, but we feel like we've been talking about this. We feel like we provide a lot of content. We try to be prepared for these conversations. And if you like what we do, thank you in advance. There's a gifting goal set up for tonight, and thank you for that. So this conversation started. Oh yeah, I got a reminder. Thank you, Jason. I digress for a second. There was a guy similar that week of lives where, oh man, we were talking about I forgot the conversation had already gone off the rails, but he said it was a shame that human beings liked sex so much. And I'm like, what? Could you repeat that? And then he said it again. And then he left, or I kicked him because I was like, whatever. And then I'm like, you're obviously not having very good sex. So I'm going to have to go back and find that video because that was hilarious. My gosh. That was quite a week. And then one guy said he's glad he didn't have common sense. Yeah, it was the same week. So, if I rack my brain, there might be a few little nuggets that we could add to some merch.
Yep.
Yeah. So again, we started this conversation with Robert Hur testified before Congress today, and ironically enough, from I heard some of it, I didn't hear all of it. I'm sure there'll be more reporting out, but it's another attempt by the Republican Party to try to paint this picture of Joe Biden. They referenced senility that was debunked. They referenced all kinds of things that they tried to infer. I think the biggest issue that we should all have with that report is that there was inferences made to attempt to paint a picture that was politically motivated, specifically about Joe Biden's mental acumen. And I discussed this earlier. These are the things that bother me because as a person, again, I am not comparing my personal situation with Joe Biden and his family's tragedy. My daughter was diagnosed with cancer the first time, November 23rd, 2012. I'll never forget that date. I would like to forget that date, but I never will. But if you ask me about when her first surgery was and all that kind of shit, no, I couldn't tell you that. But so to accuse Joe Biden of not remembering the day his son died, when in fact he did, and Joe Biden offered it in the testimony that's in the transcript, May 30th, 2015. So it became a political hit job. And again, MAGA, the chirping, he did not say that his conclusion was not that Joe Biden was senile. His conclusion was, to a jury, he would appear sympathetic as someone whose memory isn't as good. Okay. He's not a doctor. He's not a doctor. As a reminder, he made very clear distinctions between what Joe Biden did and what Donald Trump did. Joe Biden's innocent. Donald Trump has been accused of a lot of crimes with evidence to back it up. So that's the reality.
Yeah.
You may not like it, but that's the truth. Oh, well, we might as well bring up Ask, and he bailed. You can come back, Whisper.
What happened?
He requested. We sent out a credit. It's like, oh, and Crow showed up. Her is the one that actually did the investigation. So her is the one that actually did the investigation. You believe him. Okay, so you believe him. Cool. I'm glad you said that. So let's go back to the actual document in the report. He said, this is Robert Hur's words, it is not our role to assess the criminal charges pending against Mr. Trump, but several material distinctions between Mr. Trump's case and Mr. Biden's case are clear. Unlike the evidence involving Mr. Biden, the allegations set forth in the indictment of Mr. Trump, if proven, would clearly establish not only Mr. Trump's willfulness, but also serious aggravating facts. Most notably, after being given multiple chances to return classified documents and avoid prosecution, Mr. Trump allegedly did the opposite. According to the indictment, he not only refused to return the documents for months, but he also obstructed justice by enlisting others to destroy evidence and then to lie about it. In contrast, Mr. Biden alerted authorities, turned in classified documents to the National Archives and the DOJ in 2022 and 2023, consented to the search of multiple locations, including his homes, permitted the seizure and review of handwritten notebooks he believed to be his personal property, and in numerous other ways cooperated with the investigation. So, old soul, since you believe Mr. Hur, then you believe that. Thanks for playing.
Ding, ding, ding.
Ding, ding, ding. Ding, ding, ding. All right. So we're gonna move off the main and go to some fun. Good evening, sir.
Oh, no, I'm still here for the main.
That's fine. We'll go back to that. We'll go back to that. So the question was whether or not we should establish some merch, and we don't know what it would look like. But we know that you're an expert in this field.
Yeah, let's get it together.
Your work is highly regarded in the TikTok world when you're not dunking on those that need to be dunked on. So we should chat perhaps offline and figure out what that might look like.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, y'all both actually have my number and y'all both have my email, so
okay.
We can get this going.
Appreciate
But I've got fantastic news.
Please share.
So I have recently, throughout all the drama of the last 2 weeks, it actually came with some I wouldn't call it silver linings, but it just came with some really, really incredible connections and networking. I am now directly linked with the sedition hunters,
Hmm.
the actual sedition hunters, not like someone claiming to be the ones that were featured on NPR and everywhere else, have books written about them, that group. And so I'm going to be hosting lives in the next week or so with the sedition hunters talking about January 6th and the
Wow.
things that led up to it and everything that came out of it.
Wow. Will you please let us know when that's going to happen,
Yes.
because I need to be part of that.
Well, I'm going to ask you to be further a part of that, because instead
Thank
of just coming and supporting me, what we want to do is we want to grow their platform on TikTok. They don't have a foothold here on TikTok. And there's some fantastic, amazing creators. They've got a great foothold on Twitter, but they don't have anything here. And so I'm going to call out to all my left creators, all of the people that are against January 6th, to lift them up, support them, help them build a following so they can do their own lives and their own investigations. We can support them individually.
We're honored. Happy to do it, bro. Thanks
So-
for thinking of us.
Yeah. Who else was it gonna? Who else would I think of? Fax, come on.
I appreciate that, boss. Really, really appreciate that. I think that would be. I know you and I chatted briefly about some opportunities that might be bubbling with that particular organization. So I'm glad that you secured it. Good for you.
It's really good. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be a great platform to get things moving, and it's gonna be good to not be isolated on one particular part of the drama or one particular person.
Sure.
We can focus on January 6th as a whole, the things that led up to it. We hear things right now, and we tend to not take them serious because we know MAGA and we engage with them quite regularly. But one of the things that we sometimes forget about is January 6th was planned.
Oh yeah.
They were talking about it. They were planning it. There was groups talking about it, and now we're hearing rumblings of another big thing, and they're talking about it. And we should take the lessons of January 6th and not take those things lightly, and make sure that we're associating the right people. We're taking notes. We're aware of what's going on, and make ourselves more prepared in case something similar or worse is in the works.
You're absolutely right. I mean, a cautionary tale. I mean, I think you're even with the planning, January 6th was what it was, but it was a test run. I think we all know that's exactly what it was. How much can the system withstand? Where are the weaknesses? Where are the vulnerabilities? Where are the gaps? So you're right. We need to pay attention to that. We need to. So having an opportunity to speak to these groups, I think they're the ones that are front lines. Then, yeah, we're honored to help. Absolutely, it'd be awesome.
Well, there we go. Well, I'm not going to tell you what I had for dinner. And I'm gonna jump off here of my own accord.
Well said. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you, man.
You guys
Thanks a
have
lot.
a good one.
Thanks, buddy. That's cool. First of all, I think that the sedition hunters. That sounds like it should be like a Lifetime drama, but I'm all in.
Yeah,
I am all
I'm
in.
down.
Okay. Good evening. Is it Cersei?
Sorsha? But
How are you tonight?
Good, how are you?
Doing fine, thank you. What's on your mind this evening?
Well, you guys were talking about J6, and I just wanted to put things in perspective to see if you see what I see. You have a lot of people in America they're armed up. I mean, you have 40 million armed to the teeth. So it's just, my question to you is, yeah, more than that, exactly. So my question to you is, since you didn't see you didn't see those people on J6, you will see those people. You know what I'm saying? Like, those people are coming after the government. And to think that J6 was an insurrection, you really haven't seen an insurrection from these people.
Well, J6 was an insurrection.
You can call it that, but let me tell you.
It's not me calling it. It was.
Right,
it was
right.
an insurrection.
Yeah. When these people come for the government, you're gonna know it.
So let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. Who do you think is more well suited to prepare for something like that? The 40 million strong, as you put them, or the actual U.S. military?
They have no fear of the U.S. military, by example of Afghanistan. Zero fear of its government.
Okay.
They really don't.
Do you believe that too? Do you really believe that?
I just believe that this government is not as strong as everybody says. They barely performed in Afghanistan. And
Right.
so,
Okay. So you're speaking to. Go ahead, Anthony. You're speaking to a veteran. Sure, you want to go down that road, but go for it, Anthony.
yeah, sure,
Well,
I'm happy to go down.
Cool. Good luck.
in the entirety of the history of the region that includes Afghanistan, there has never been a single invader that has been successful. So I will leave it at that. And to try to draw a parallel between what was done in Afghanistan to some meal team 6 Joe Bobs that really have no requisite skills to deal with the United States military. I will ask you this. This is a question I ask everybody. So, in fairness, I will ask you this. What is any one long rifle or handgun going to do against a drone?
Not a problem. They used drones in Afghanistan, and they were very unsuccessful.
Well,
The
That's
let's
not
hold
what
on a
I
second.
asked
Hold
you.
on a
no,
second. Hang on.
That's
Hang on.
not what
Both
I
of
asked you.
Okay, guys, hang on one second. Hang on one second. First of all, I want to kind of level set. So, friend, let's find some common ground here, okay? So, why don't you tell us what you had for dinner before we get too deep down this road, so we can
I'm
just
making
find some
dinner right
common.
now.
Cool. Nobody gives a
You got
shit. Um, thank you, mods. A lot of red flags there. Sorry, I know you wanted
Yeah.
to kind of dog walk him a little bit, Anthony, but a lot of red flags there. Lot of hate
Yeah, did
and
you see his
hate and harassment
bio?
speech. That's why I got the red flag. Yeah. So
Woof.
yeah. Um.
Creepy.
But it is an interesting topic. It's an interesting topic because
Oh,
you know,
t-shirt idea.
yeah, that's one. But
Red flag.
exactly. But specifically, MAGA. We I don't joke about this because I think it's serious, but you've talked about Civil
Yeah.
War many times. Have you thought
Yeah.
that through other than your Call of Duty fantasy sitting around mom's basement in your tidy whities thinking about what that would look like? You probably haven't. I don't think you've really gotten that far. Um, but let's talk.
I mean,
We a cleansing breath. Time for Erica. We need a cleansing
yeah.
breath. Good evening, friend.
Hello.
Are you planning on overthrowing the government anytime soon?
I am not a member of the Gravy Seals, no.
Good to know.
No. We we Brits we don't really overthrow our governments. Well, not for a few hundred years anyway.
Right. There was a time though.
There was just one time. Well, yeah, I think just one time.
Yeah, just one time.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I was listening. I was in at the very beginning of your live, when you shut down and restarted, and I was listening to the what was it, employee number 5,
Correct.
and it was I liked the way you intersected it with the audio of Trump showing people the documents.
Thank you. Yeah.
I really liked the way you did that, and what really surprised me, well, I say surprised me, it didn't. You still had people in the comments saying, "Oh, misinformation." It's coming out of Trump's own mouth, guys.
Yeah.
And when it's coming out of his mouth, I don't understand how they do the misinformation thing. It's really quite ridiculous, and it. I just feel every day they're getting more and more precious, and fragile about the whole thing.
It's a really good point. It's almost like they have to make up their mind that either want to believe the words that comes out of Trump's mouth, like they tell us, "Look, I believe Trump," but then when they hear the words that come out of his mouth that they don't like, they say that it's AI, or that it's been manipulated, or that it's fake news. So to
Or that
be to
he
go ahead.
was only joking.
Right, dictator for a day. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, yeah.
And that we're all taking it too seriously, and you know me, I'm in Ethan's live, a lot,
Yeah.
and other lives, and the number of times I get told, well, you've got no dog in this fight because you're from Britain, you shouldn't have an opinion on this because you're not from here, you don't vote. The fact is, Trump, well, not Trump specifically, but the president of the USA has been called by the USA specifically the leader of the free world. So this is this is potentially the leader of the world that I live in, but I have absolutely no say in that whatsoever. And does it affect me? Of course it does. And anyone who thinks it doesn't affect people, see some of the comments now. Who is this British woman talking?
Come on.
Someone intelligent. You might not recognise that, but it grinds my gears that that people don't understand that this affects the entire world.
It's a good point, Erica. We don't like to think of America being the linchpin, but in so many ways it is. Largest military, biggest budget, the whole 9 yards, and Donald Trump's approach to nationalism and isolationism is a reminder of what happened in Germany. When there was talk coming off the Depression about policies regarding nationalism and America first, which created what we saw in Europe in the 30s. So yeah, it absolutely affects you and the rest of the world too.
Yeah, and the thing is, I was talking to somebody on a live earlier, and they were saying, "Well, I really hope Putin goes into Poland." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "If Putin goes into Poland, then Article 5 of the North Atlantic Treaty will be enacted. And that means boots on the ground in Europe, not just from the US, but from all of the other NATO countries." And this is the one reminder I have for the people that are anti-NATO. Article 5 of the North Atlantic Treaty has only been invoked once. And the one time it was invoked to protect the United States of America.
Correct.
So it has never been used to protect my country or any of the other countries in NATO. It has been used once in order to protect the United States. Just very quickly, someone in the comments is asking why I have no videos. I absolutely do. You have to follow me to see them. The reason you can't just see them is because I am currently private, because I'm a teacher and some of my kids from school found me. So I've gone private for a couple of weeks. I will be back public very soon.
You bring up a really good point, and Erica's a great creator, really smart. I've learned a lot from her, and I appreciate you joining us. But you bring up a really good point about how 9/11 is when when Article 5 was initiated or acted upon, or whatever the terminology is. And NATO was there at the ready immediately. The greatest ally we have is Great Britain, and there was no question as to whether or not they were going to support us, and they did. And that's the requirement, and that's what people don't understand about foreign policy and why treaties are so important. And as a reminder, Donald Trump told an audience, to one of his cult-like followers, that he would encourage Vladimir Putin to do whatever the hell he wanted to NATO countries if they didn't pay their bills. Right.
Yeah, I saw him say that. And the fact is, Putin has said multiple times that were he to act with, those big weapons, the ones that we don't like because they do a lot of damage, the place he would go for first is not the US, it's the country I live in.
Correct.
Because we would be a warning shot, right? That's how much we mean to him. We're not, we're a warning shot. And I don't know if people understand how terrifying that is. I mean, there are 67 million people who live in this country. That's 1/6 the population of the United States, shoved into an area 1/40th of the size of the United States. And the fact that all of these countries are acting together in defense of a sovereign nation actually brings me hope. So anyway, it's midnight here, So
Hmm.
I need to go to sleep. But just to say, even though I am private, if anyone did want to follow me, you still can. I will do a little check to make sure that you're not a 12-year-old British kid, and as long as you're not, feel free to. But love you both.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work, and I
Back
will
at you.
see you here or elsewhere very soon.
Thank you, Erica.
Love
Feelings
you
mutual.
lots.
Thanks, Erica.
Appreciate you. Love you
Bye.
too. See you later. Bye. She's great. Love talking to her. Um, she's right, and I think an important element to that whole conversation is about the specifics of treaties, right? And how important it
Yep.
is. What she was referring to is Article 5, and that means if any NATO nation is attacked, then every and all NATO nations respond. In fact, I think it's currently happening. There's the largest NATO exercise since it's been a long time, 50 years, I want to say, or 30, maybe not 50,
19
whatever it is,
something.
maybe 30 years, 40 years. Um,
Yeah, I think so.
and it's in the North Sea right now, and includes Sweden, who's now a new member.
Yep.
So it's there. People don't understand. Maybe it's worthwhile to kind of revisit this again. When Donald Trump has made these claims publicly about how NATO needs to pay up, well, the United States is not the bank of NATO. The requirement to be a member of NATO means that each country that's in the alliance needs to commit 2% of its military budget I'm sorry, 2% of its GDP to the military,
Right.
specifically in support of the NATO agreement. That's how it works. All right. And by the way, under the Biden administration, companies have increased their expenditures. So we're getting more people to pay more now. So the lies that Trump tells you specifically about NATO paying up is another lie. Just add it to the list. Add it to the list.
It's
So
not a golf club.
exactly. There's not membership dues. It's part of the alliance. And I don't know. I don't know. I think it's disturbing that people again want to look past just the intelligence that we get from NATO alone
Yep.
is incredibly valuable. Incredibly valuable. And we know some of the documents that were found in Mar A Lago included human intelligence. What is that? Is that H? What is that? Is that SCI? I think that's the SCI category, isn't it, Anthony?
Yeah.
I think it is. It might be in one of those categories.
I'm heading to Feed Scout.
Bye, Jen. Later. Be well.
Bye.
See you later.
But I'm listening.
I know you are. Thank you. Thank you for loaning us your husband. We appreciate it. But the SCI, the human intelligence, comes from members of NATO.
Yes.
Whether it be the MI6 or other intelligence
Yes.
agencies, it's incredibly important, incredibly valuable.
All right, so let me just share this. This I didn't realize. So the name of the exercise, and I'm sorry, but these names so fucking cool. Steadfast Defender 24 is the first large-scale NATO exercise to put these new defense plans into action. And when they're talking about size, it is every single NATO member and 90,000 plus troops, which includes all branches of the military. Troops is just a general term. So this has never happened. There has never been an exercise this large before.
It's in the North Sea, right? Isn't that where they are?
And it is in the North Sea, which
That's Erica's backyard.
yeah, cold as shit and
Sure.
choppy and nope.
So it's just a little nod to Vlad to say, this is what's here, just in case you get a little antsy.
Yeah.
And nobody wants that, but it's a deterrent.
Yep.
And I think it's. We should do an entire live on U.S. partnerships and alliances in NATO, and
You know what? One of the really super cool things about being in the military is that you get to do exercises with other militaries. A lot of it's done Navy to Navy, right? So in my time, in my Riverine unit, when I was aboard a ship with my sexy ass Riverine boat in the belly of the beast, we worked with the Australian Navy. Already gave everybody the warning with trying to party with the Australian Navy. Do so at your own peril. The Japanese Navy, the Canadian Navy, And who else? Oh, I totally freaking forgot. When I was in the Gulf of Oman, Russia was there with their super spy ships listening in. And what ship? Can't remember what ship I was on, but the captain did a high speed maneuver circling very wide, giving the ship lots of space, and then blasting at the top of all speakers outside of the ship. I wish they all could be California Girls,
that's
as we
great.
did a couple circles around this Russian spy vehicle. It was quite awesome.
Yeah, can you
Anyway.
just yeah, so I think it's important. So just could you just briefly touch on that a little bit, Anthony, like the importance of our allies and why, not necessarily not just
Yeah.
NATO, but just in general, like Five Eyes, for example, that people don't
Yeah.
really know anything about by design and why it's so critical.
Okay, just from the basics of it all, right? We need to be able, as service members, to identify and understand NATO planes, NATO ships, NATO capabilities, right? So that one can prevent friendly fire. That's one thing. Now, that I can't even measure the enormity of that task, right? The other thing, too, that's super duper important is when you have these shared exercises, you also get to understand the basic capabilities of certain craft. You get to understand how they operate. Why is that important? Well, let's just say that the boat I'm on shits the bed, and then I have to help another crew operate their craft. I sure as shit better know how to do certain things for the betterment of my team, right?
Sure.
And my team includes anybody in NATO. Now, the other thing too is to show the world that NATO is united. So these exercises are usually in various parts of the world, and they happen on a regular basis. It helps the navies, as an example. So captains of each command of each ship, they learn how to navigate with each other. They learn how to communicate with each other. They learn how to chart and make turns, which, by the way, it's not like turning your car on a left or right hand turn. It's a lot more difficult when you're moving 500 plus feet ships. You also get to hang out and learn from one another, depending on what it is that you do and your specialty in the military. You may get to share things on a different level. You get to go to different countries with these folks and hang out. And I think one of the most important things that seems obvious is that it is a show of strength, right? And that is impactful, right? Because if all of a sudden you have 4 countries working together, and those 4 countries have 10 to 15 ships together doing exercises and maneuvering, right? It's fantastic. When we do that, we're actually playing pretend war games, right? There are these scenarios that happen. Every once in a while, one of those scenarios, if there happens to be a SEAL team close, is they try to come and take your fucking ship. And as a guy who worked in a riverine unit and got to work with special forces men, because women weren't a part of that world back then, because it was a while ago. Yeah, if they want to take over your fucking ship, they're going to take over your fucking ship. So, because they're that good at what they do. But it's just super cool, and it helps people understand the very delicate geopolitical balance. And that's the other side of this coin, right? There's all the things with military training and strength. Then there's the geopolitics of it all, right? How do we continue to foster relationships with Japan and Canada and Australia and the UK? We have these military exercises. That keeps our governments close. That keeps our allyships close and our agreements close. And it really serves an example to the rest of the world. You fuck with one of us, you're fucking with all of us, right? And most countries don't have a navy like ours. Actually, no country has a navy like ours. but it's just super cool to get to see that. And as a young sailor, I got to meet officers from different navies. I got to ask questions, learn about other parts of the world. So I strongly encourage people to look at these exercises not just as a show of strength, but really try to understand
Sure.
that we learned a lot of lessons, a lot of unfortunate lessons came out of World War II.
Sometimes
Right.
the hard way, right?
Right.
Yeah,
And I think it's super cool that NATO is back to working with each other. Joe Biden's done a fantastic job repairing the damage that was done.
Correct.
And there was an extremely large amount of damage done during
There was
the Trump
reputationally.
presidency.
Yeah, I remember. You might recall this, Anthony. During there was a call from Trump to have General Milley unalived for treason, specifically because he had made a call to his Chinese counterpart during January 6th.
Yeah.
And yes, China is certainly not an ally, but I would imagine those. I imagine a scene from a movie where there's the red phone sitting on the desk and you can pick it up and you can call the premier of Russia or China or whatever it might be. But whether it be through back channels, whether it be through whether it's peer to peer, who's the peer to General Milley in China. I would imagine those conversations happen often. Like we're testing something, or we're going to be in the North Sea doing a NATO exercise, and it's part of global security and it's part of keeping the peace. Nobody wants war, with the exception of Vladimir Putin, perhaps, and MAGA, apparently. So to try to avoid those kinds of things, although MAGA wants to, gather around in a circle with their backpacks on while the guy from Virginia flies their drone overhead, but that's a different conversation. So I would imagine those conversations are happening very often, peer to peer, and I think it's good for global security. So thank you for that breakdown. I think it's really crucial that people understand that more, and why alliances are so important and why treaties are so important. Ukraine, for example, we have the Budapest Memorandum, which is basically a treaty. It's more or less an agreement. Like if Ukraine, if you give up your nukes, we'll protect you if you're attacked.
Yeah.
Russia signed that document too, by the way. Yes.
Yeah. I was going to say, let's make sure we constantly point that out, because it really boggles my brain when people hear that. People will see it and they still will continue with the war in Ukraine is about money laundering. No, it's about that a sovereign nation, Ukraine, was invaded by Russia.
Correct.
Right? That's what it's about.
That's right. We see the spamming of the chat, the proxy war garbage. Again, it's just these are talking points, MAGA. It's so easy. It's so easy to disprove it. Most of you probably didn't even know that the Budapest Memorandum existed. The large majority of people that we talked to when they bring it up didn't know what it was. It was literally an agreement for Ukraine to give up its nukes because they had the largest stockpile at one point, I believe. Once the USSR ended, Ukraine ended up with the largest, I think second only to the US at that point, of nuclear weapons. So we said, listen, again, it's the US and Russia and Britain flexing our muscles a little bit. That's what happens, good or bad. They would say, give up your nukes. And if you're ever invaded, we'll come to your aid. And the money
would you like to know?
Sure.
Sorry.
Go for it.
Would you like to know the only actual proxy wars that have ever been done
I would.
in the modern era?
And I know our friends in MAGA would love to know that.
Yes. So, and I'm going to say these historically correctly, not the way the United States has taught you, because unfortunately, propaganda has seeped in. There was the war in Korea. It's not the Korean War. It was a war in Korea that was being fought by Koreans that we stuck our nose in. That's a proxy war.
Interesting.
The war in Vietnam was a war within the Vietnamese community that we stuck our nose in to help the French. That's a whole nother story.
Right.
There was
history that people don't know.
There was the Cuban Missile Crisis. By the way, my dad, who does not have TikTok or a smartphone, was on a ship that was a part of the Cuban Missile Crisis blockade.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was that.
No, Tommy, Ukraine is not a proxy war.
Yeah, the Afghan Soviet Union war was also a proxy war. Those are the only actual modern era proxy wars. And because people don't know what a proxy war is, they like to throw it around. But if you're going to say something, you need to know what it means. So you should start by actually knowing how to define what a proxy war is. I've given you the actual historical examples. And so if you compare those, then automatically Ukraine is not a proxy war, right?
That's right.
So, you know,
And
now,
on that point, because we know that Ukraine funding,
yep.
funding for Taiwan, funding for the border, funding for Israel, those are all still pending. Ken Buck from Colorado we already knew that he was going to be leaving Congress, but he's moved up his timeline. Next week, he's done. Which now I think, if memory serves, the vote margin is down to 2 because there's three vacancies. Is that right?
And here's the super important part about speeding up the timeline. This is what's super awesome. This kicks off an automatic special election in the state of Colorado. So Colorado will have to have a special election to replace Buck for that window of time, which means that Lauren Boebert is now going to be not only competing with the people she's currently competing with, but all of them now will have to go against an incumbent by him leaving early.
So, hold on a second. So, there needs to be a special election to fill his seat. That district is the one that she is running in because knowing that. So,
Colorado
okay.
4th.
So she's going to have
Colorado
to run
4th.
twice.
Yes.
Oh my God.
And everybody that's running to take Ken Buck's seat that he was eventually going to retire out of anyway, the 4th district.
Right.
Whoever comes out of that as number one now has to fight an incumbent to win that seat.
So that's right. So the person who wins, so in theory, let me get this straight.
Yep.
So Boebert's plan was to run this fall. She's failing miserably in fundraising.
She's in third place.
She's in
out
third
of 3
place.
People.
She's in third place out of 2. Anyway, in her math. So then she could theoretically, now the special election means that she could lose her seat in Congress now. No?
She would, in order to run for the special election, she has to resign from Congress.
That's right. And to get that seat, that's right. So she can't. So then there'll be another seat open in District 3. She's done. Game over. That just made my night. I'm going to sleep like a baby. RTP has a bit of an obsession with Boebert, so he's probably dancing tonight. So,
well,
he thinks he can flip her.
His cute crush with her. Yeah. So
there's some people on this app and people that I know personally who have some strong opinions about that. Actually,
I mean, listen, hey.
So again, just to be clear, so that seat that the Ken Buck seat is currently District
Colorado 4th. Right.
So Lauren Boebert is currently Colorado 3. She's getting hammered in the polls in Colorado 3. Adam Fritsch is a Democrat.
No. She's running in Colorado 4th. She moved from 3 to 4.
Right,
so
but she holds the seat
for 3.
But she holds the seat in 3. That's what I meant. Yeah.
Right. Yes.
So she holds the seat in 3. She knows she's going to lose that seat. She almost lost it the last time. She's getting hammered in fundraising. So for her to run for the Colorado 4th seat, she has to resign seat 3, which then would mean another special election there. Then there'd be a special election in District 4, and then she's going to lose that. So she's out of a job here very soon.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. In order for her to run in the special election, she has to resign her District 3 seat.
Wow. That's crazy.
To run. Now, here's the thing. She'll be the former Congresswoman of Colorado District 3 running for special election District 4. There is absolutely no way she could win, right? So at that moment, that's it. She's done.
Reeb, she'll be back in the park soon.
Yeah. I was going to
That's
say she'll be
true.
back in a restaurant, but I think the restaurant got shut down, right?
Yeah, for botulism.
Well, I mean, tomato,
Yeah. What's
tomato.
what what's a few what's some stomach ailments between friends? I mean, we know she's good with her hands, but there's probably a job for her somewhere. But that's fascinating. So listen, those of you who know me know me well enough to know that I'm a political junkie. I love this kind of stuff. Every time we see something that comes up, it's new. Like everything becomes unprecedented. So here's another example of we've got a sitting congressperson who's already laid claims, like she's moved across the state because Colorado law requires her to be in the district, right? Exactly. So she's giving up on the seat that she currently holds, which is District 3. She has to give that up if she wants to run in 4. So now that the seat in 4 is open, that means there's a special election. So she literally has to give up that seat like within the next however many days because they have to have a special election under Colorado law to fill that
Right.
seat prior to November.
Or she stays in 3, and then for the election, after the special little time spot is filled, she has to run against an incumbent.
That's
if
right.
she wins, to run against the incumbent.
That's right.
Right?
Damn.
That math. You
Wow.
want to talk about your math ain't mathin'. Like this woman literally, by Ken Buck's greatest gift to all of Congress,
Seriously, maybe that's why he's
has
doing it.
just
Good for him.
ended her career.
I think
It's
I want to get
awesome
a T-shirt that
song.
says "I love Ken Buck," just because. Good evening,
Just
Poe.
because.
How are you?
Hey, I'm good. I'm on my way home. Hi.
Hello.
Hey, Anthony, I did not know you had any connection to Livermore, California. I heard you talking to somebody. I graduated from Granada High School in Livermore.
Yes, it is true that I am a member of the Tri-Valley Mafia. And
Educational purposes
I
only. TikTok.
yes, TikTok.
Yeah.
And by the way, the TikTok shop is awesome. Yeah,
Love the
IU
TikTok shop.
was a East Bayer for quite some time, and was a member and at one time the commander of the VFW post there in
Oh, wow.
Pleasanton.
You guys chat. I'll be right back.
And
Wow.
also have several friends still that want to be my friend that work at the labs. So
Nice.
yeah.
Nice. Yeah, my uncle owned in Castlewood Country Club the house Villa del Sol that was up on that was my uncle's house.
Wow.
I know. It just went up for sale again, but it hadn't been up for sale since he owned it. Like somebody had kept it for a long time after he sold it. But yeah,
Your uncle did well for himself. Congratulations
he did very
on that.
Yeah,
Jeez.
he hopped into that Silicon Valley millionaireism when he invented, I'm sure you know, the little containers next to your computer that used to hold the floppy disks that had a button that you pushed, and that was him.
Yeah.
So he didn't invent anything like complicated. It was just that thing. So yeah.
Yeah, but hold on. Let's pause for a second. For those of us that remember that discs came in 2 different styles, one was a floppy, so a 5.5, and then there was a hard disk, which was a 3.5. Those containers were so incredibly vital. So
Yeah.
you're telling me that your uncle literally came up with something that was probably on every single desk I ever sat at from 1987 till 2000?
Yep, that was him. Yep.
Holy crap.
Gen
Eh,
X.
Yeah.
Wow.
Innovative Concepts Incorporated. Yeah.
That's funny.
Anyway, yeah, this Lauren Bobart thing, hearing you guys talk about it, I'm really encouraged. Like, I hope that they can get rid of her. The only big thing that I wonder about is Trump endorsed her, and I just don't know. He's winning all those primaries, and it's like,
Now, if you read the news, today I was reading the news from Colorado. I'm trying to be more like facts and less math nerdy. Probably won't happen, but life goals. And the people in District 3 and in District 4 are very vocal in saying, when asked, we don't care that Trump endorsed her. She does not represent us at all.
Oh, that's so good.
I think the
and I think his endorsements in general these days are a poison pill, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. Don't matter much.
You think so?
Yeah.
I hope so.
Her acting class, her performance in the theater, I do believe, whilst
jazz hands, literally
yielding fantastic results for her date, I don't think it's yielded much for her, and she's done. This is it. This is
I hope so.
No, she can't raise money. She's in third place, in a distant third. This is it. This is, and Ken Buck can't stand her either.
Nice. So, do you have any theories about why he resigned his position? Because
yes,
what are your theories?
He was cryptic but pretty clear. So it goes back to what he's been saying. He didn't sign up for this.
Yeah. Even though he's hardcore MAGA, he's hardcore MAGA. Has been for the beginning.
But at the same time, he's like, we have a job to do, right? And we're not doing our jobs. And also, I think he's just the Freedom Caucus has so disgusted him personally as a hardcore Republican that he's just like, that's it. I'm done with you children. I've got money. I don't need you. I'm moving on. And that was it.
Yeah, he made it clear that this was going to be his last term anyway. I think he just got disgusted because he was, he's a bit of a war hawk. So he was all in on funding Ukraine. He was all in on passing that border legislation that came through. So now that Mike Johnson is refusing to bring the bill to the floor, which he's going to have to, he's going to be out of time. But I think Ken Buck is just like, forget it. What's the point? To Anthony's point, he's made his mark. He'll end up in conservative media. He's an eloquent speaker. He's got a good rep. I think he's redeemable within the the conservative movement because he wasn't full blown psychotic MAGA. He's like MAGA light, if there is such a thing. We'll see. He'll be back. He'll be back like a bad penny, but he'll be back somewhere.
I mean, look, he's only 65. He's only 65.
Oh, okay,
and
65.
he's a lawyer.
Yeah, he's good.
He's set.
Okay,
he doesn't need anything.
He's good. Yeah, it just worries me. It's like, what's happening to our country where like so many people are acting so un-American. I can't even fathom why they're doing it. It's just insane to me. Like, Russia is our enemy. Russia is the world's enemy. Putin is the world's terrorist right now, and they're not funding the Ukraine. What are they looking to get to World War III? Is that part of their, let's trash this place before Jesus comes again? Is that what's going on in their heads? Like, I do not understand the Republicans at all, conservatives at all right now.
I don't think they've thought it through to that level. Oh, I think it's really more about the believing of these talking points that there's corruption in Ukraine and Vladimir Putin is the hero and he's rooting it out. And there's Yahtzees there, and it's money laundering for the Biden crime family. Like, I don't think they've never thought that through, because you're right. I mean, Russia is been around. I mean, it's Red Dawn, it's Miracle on Ice hockey, it's everything the Cuban Missile Crisis, it's everything we grew up with. And all of a sudden, because Donald Trump cozies up to Putin, that all of a sudden Putin's a good guy. I mean, give me a fucking break.
I mean, he only loves Putin because he's like probably the world's richest man, but he's only the world's richest man because he keeps all the money for himself. He scoops it all into his funds, and Trump wants to do that to our taxpayer dollars. And it's like, come on, what is the matter with you people that's what you want for a president? Somebody who's going to steal our taxpayer dollars and cozy up to dictators and build camps for people and what is this? Like, how are you guys even considering yourselves patriots? It's insane to me. It's insane.
I know. I know
Yeah.
we've had, as you know, we've had that conversation with many people many times. They just don't get it. They genuinely believe that their patriotism is about rooting out the corruption in Ukraine, and they're willing to do whatever it is, including taint sniff Putin and his crony, his Orange Jesus, to get that done. And they just don't get it. They don't get it.
You know what hurts the most to me is that they've called Biden a P3DO.
Mhm.
They've called Biden the Biden crime family. This is a good person. This is a good, solid, honest public servant who has been serving our country for 50 years nearly, and has been honorable in his family, in the way he loves his family, in his in every action that he takes, he thinks of the morals of it first. He grew up as an average American with a union dad.
Yep.
He grew up in a regular home. He got his education. He is the American dream come to life. And he is, since he's been in office as president for the past 4 years, he's done remarkable things. He's moved remarkable legislation, and he's ignored most of the parade and the stupid puppetry that Donald Trump does with the right-wing media. And he's just kind of served us the best he can. And yet they are willing, those people who call themselves Christians are willing to disparage the reputation of a perfectly good person for a criminal, a absolute criminal who hung out with Jeffrey Epstein, who raped young girls and women, and who knows who else. I mean, it just feels awful that that's acceptable, that we don't have a better moral standard where we say, you absolutely don't disparage good people like that. You wait to call people what they are based on our system of laws instead of branding them and then disparaging them and believing it to the point where you're willing to elect a person as dishonest as Donald Trump.
We don't, something
It
you
doesn't
just,
feel like my country right now.
you're right. And it's really, really important. We don't have to go back too far in our political history. When John McCain was running against Obama, I think it was the second time, maybe the second time. And I remember a McCain campaign rally where a woman stood up and said, "I don't trust Barack Obama because he's an Arab."
Yeah.
And McCain was like, "No, ma'am. We disagree politically, but he's an honorable man who cares about his family. He cares about his country. We just have different opinions as to how to get us to where we want to go." Those days are done. I mean, think about just recently. Joe Biden literally goes in the State of the Union and then follow-up campaign events and says, "Donald Trump, let's work together to fix this problem at the border."
Yeah.
Right? Have you ever heard, Joe Biden saying illegal, calling somebody an illegal during the State of the Union, which bothered me, immediately corrects it the next day. I should not have said that. I misspoke. Have you ever heard Trump take accountability or responsibility for anything?
No.
Asked about COVID. Do you take any responsibility for that? Nope.
No.
Nothing.
He takes responsibility for nothing. Like he has no moral code. That's
correct.
And now MAGA has no moral code. They
Correct.
have no code of honor. They have no, they'll excuse anything. They'll excuse murder from him. They'll excuse anything from him. They're excusing grape, they're excusing him hanging out with a child sex trafficker. None of it is a big deal to them.
Nope.
None of it.
Nope.
And I just don't understand that kind of reasoning. And he's the most compromised president we've ever had, and the
Agreed.
most compromised person running again for the presidency that we've ever had. I mean, he committed crimes. I'm sure they haven't even uncovered all the crimes he committed while in office. I'm sure they haven't even found all of them. They're just like, probably every time they turn over a rock from the Trump administration, they're like, holy shit, holy shit, holy
Something
shit,
else.
like something else. I mean, it's just, he's charged with 91 felony counts right now, but I bet there are 500 that he committed while he was in office. And they
Alleged.
don't care.
Sure. Yeah,
They don't love our country enough to protect our country from this man, and that's terrifying to me.
that's the irony of the patriot argument, right? They see Donald Trump as a patriot. They see Donald Trump going after the deep state, and then I'll remind them of people like Leonard Leo, for example. There's no deeper state than Leonard Leo,
No.
but they don't get it. So they think January 6th was a patriotic act.
They are the deep state.
They are.
They are the deep state. They're protecting corruption.
Yep.
And they're disparaging good people. And that's
Correct.
what the deep state does. That's what dictators do. And they are signed up 100% with that agenda. And
Right.
it's like, you guys are the deep state. You are the corruption. You are the problem.
They are, and that's why we talk about this all the time about, we
Yep.
can't depend on the courts to solve our problems. It's on all of us. It's literally walking into the voting booth and saying, even if you are not a Democrat, even if you feel like, you don't align with Joe Biden's policies, even if you think he's this person that you think is too old and feeble and whatever else, you want a future, you want democracy, then you have no choice who to vote for. No choice.
No.
And you should do it proudly, and you should vote for Joe Biden proudly because he's accomplished a lot. He's a good man. Character fucking matters. Pardon my French.
Yeah,
It's the truth. It does.
absolutely does matter. And it is the contrast of good and evil in this next election. It is not Democrats and Republicans. It's good and evil. And Biden is the vote for good. And
Agreed.
and
Agreed.
Trump is the vote for pure unleashing evil on your country and
Agreed.
destroying it.
Agreed. Appreciate you, friend. Appreciate you, friend. Hang in there.
Yeah,
We
well,
got
thanks for having me up.
You got it.
and-
Thanks for coming up. Are you
Yeah.
still in Cali, by the way, or did you leave the Sunshine
No,
State?
I'm in Washington State.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm about as far north as you can get. Like, it's not going to be much of a leap for me to the Canadian border. If things
You and me
go
both,
right.
friend.
So you're not too far from BC then, I assume.
No, not too far at all.
Thanks for joining. Always good to talk to you.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Bye. Later.
Peace.
I don't know if we emphasize this enough, Anthony, but it's really true. We talk about character, but drawing that distinction between, this guy who's a racist, a bigot, who's committed SA, grape by definition, treason, nationalism, totalitarianism, lying, flouting the rule of law, anti-American. He's compromised. There's no doubt about it. You can read American Compromise if you want. I would encourage everybody to do it. It's about his path to being groomed by the KGB, and remember that, by the way, that Vladimir Putin was a KGB officer. So it's, again, don't take my word for it. Read it for yourself and form your own opinions. But this is what we're talking about. We're talking about, do I agree with Joe Biden's politics? Not all of them, for sure. I don't think he's progressive enough. I think he's a capitalist. I think he's gotten wealthy. I think people in our government, because of the corporatist stance that he's taken, have allowed corporations to run amok. But he's a good man. He's a good man. He's got character. He's a family man. He's been through tremendous tragedy. He's incredibly competent. He's very skilled. He's passed legislation that is comparable to FDR, and there's not that you can't deny that. Those are the facts in this case. And I think his budget proposal. Go ahead.
Somebody just brought the 94 crime bill. Sorry, but every time you do this, every single time somebody brings up the 94 crime bill, and
that they don't know anything about.
So, as a refresher, would you please just briefly add the context that people who keep bringing up the crime bill keep forgetting about the crime bill?
Yeah, from the highest level, it was endorsed by the Congressional Black Caucus. Joe Biden was just one of the many people who crafted legislation, and the idea was to address, rampant crime. And there was language in it that would be, if we look back, I think people would change, but I think the intention was to address a serious problem that we had. And again, I'll remind people that it was overwhelmingly endorsed by the Congressional Black Caucus. So, and I'll even pivot to the whole racial jungle comment. That was about housing. Joe Biden made that statement specifically because the push was to allow busing segregation, and he was concerned that by forcing people into the community through busing as opposed to assimilating people into the community through housing, that it was going to create a racial jungle. That's what the terminology comes from. Again, it's a talking point that's been twisted out of control. If you go back and read the entire speech, you'll see exactly where it comes from. The intention was we shouldn't be doing this. We should be investing in housing. We should allow communities to assimilate organically, not through forced busing. That's what this whole thing's about. So there you go.
Yeah,
There's my
thank you.
takedown. Sure. But character matters, right? At the end of the day, I mean, this is what we're talking about. And we talk about honor. We talk about integrity. We talk about, you are, what's the term? You are the company you keep, right?
Yes.
Donald Trump had hosted Viktor Orban at Mar A Lago over the weekend. He bends the knee to Putin. He invites Klizniak, I forget his name, and another Russian oligarch into the Oval Office, and they asked them to turn the cameras and turn the recordings off, and they asked the staff to leave. What were they talking about?
Yes.
This shit matters. Now we know. Now we know from document testimony. We know from witness testimony. We know from the tape that we played earlier about documents being moved. We know he's broke. We know he can't come up with money to pay his legal bills. We know that he needs money. There's also talk about this other. Go ahead.
Let's add that. Is it Laura Trump, his daughter-in-law?
Yeah.
Right? She's now a co-chair, and the Trump people just went into the RNC and just fired a whole bunch of people. Now, I get that there's always cost savings, and I get that, right?
Sure.
But what this really is they're literally trying to free up as much money as they can.
65 people they fired. We just saw that in the chat. 65 people. Yep.
Laura Trump was like, oh, of course we're going to pay for his legal fees.
Sure.
So they're just trying to basically whittle down the RNC so they can just basically steal all the money.
Right. So MAGA, I don't know if you guys understand that, but the RNC is not the piggy bank for the orange ass clown. Literally, the RNC's job is to get Republican candidates elected in other places, in other states. They are broke. They are broke. And they are even more broke because they're using money from the RNC to pay legal fees. So you might as well just forget about winning elections. It will be a blue tidal wave in this November. You can count on that. And Joe Biden during the State of the Union address said, "You give me a Democratic Congress, I'll bring back Roe." So you can count on that. It'll happen.
Yep.
Host is lying. What am I lying about? Let's see. Who is that? So Jamie, you've got plenty of followers. Jamie with 2 eyes. Come on up and tell me what I lied about. I bet you won't, though. Is that a vacuum I hear? What do I hear?
Sorry, it's
okay.
It's the neighbor and the lawn care service.
That's all good.
Sorry.
That's all good. Don't worry about it. I was wondering if it was the I was wondering if it was noises in my head.
And I'm upstairs in my office, so of course it comes up in between the buildings. Also important that I get to this because it's been a while. TikTok, it is our intention during these live broadcasts to only provide fact-based information to the absolute best of our ability. We strive to never spread misinformation or to platform those that do. The opinions of our guest or commenters are theirs and theirs alone and do not reflect those of the host. Hate speech is not allowed, and we are diligent about policing it. This platform is for educational purposes only, and everyone should go to the TikTok shop and buy something.
Thank you, sir. Or should I start promoting products that are completely off brand?
Listen, TikTok shop. If you have products for men with beautiful hair, or special shaving creams to help guys shave or wash our faces, anything of that nature, we're happy to promote. If you want to send me an ice cube maker, I would be happy to promote an ice cube maker. Most importantly, for the motorcycle community on the TikTok shop. We are both motorcycle enthusiasts, and we would be more than willing to demo cleaning products, things of that nature, and post videos, shared videos here multiple times, testing out your product. So do reach out to either one of us, we
Sure.
are more than happy to do that. And I would even say for some of you larger shops that would want this old dude's face,
Yeah, or this one. Yeah.
or this good-looking gentleman with a beautifully coiffed beard next to me, let us know. This is not a matter of pride. This is a matter of economics. Unfortunately, this is a
Sure.
capitalist world we live in,
Sure.
and Squirrel's just trying to get his nut.
Totally.
So
Totally. If TikTok shop, if you feel inclined to, to send product and you want to do a get ready with me with facts, I can do that. Right. Or if there's a throttle cable for a 2006 Harley Davidson 1200 custom, I would appreciate that. But just saying, I'm just saying. Anyway.
Yeah, Barrett clutch cables. Perhaps you could help my brother out. Barrett, you make fantastic clutch cables for Indian motorcycles, Honda motorcycles, Harley Davidson motorcycles. We love your products. I happen to have one of your products on my motorcycle. And let us know.
Yes.
And we are happy. Now, some of
Because
our
you would
audience
not would not approve of my configuration currently, I must admit. It is literally just enough to keep me on the road until spring. Meaning the plan was to repair it anyway. Anyway, we're getting inside baseball here. This is what happens with motorcycle people start
baling
talking.
wire and duct taping your motorcycle?
Pretty much. There's a couple of zip ties in there as well.
Yes.
It is what it is. I'm like, end of the season, I'm like, it's not so bad. I can get home.
Yeah. Listen, as long as you got home safe, that's all that matters.
I did indeed.
So why don't we? I'm sorry for going down that, but I just also want to let the audience know every once in a while.
Yeah.
We have to have fun and we have to laugh at ourselves. And one of the ways we're going to laugh at ourselves is by talking about the TikTok shop, because it also helps the algorithm and it grows our channel.
Sure.
And that's super duper important.
I just got a note that we should get ready with Facts After Dark. So we're going to do a new series, Facts After Dark, and it's going to get spicy.
Okay.
And we'll talk about motorcycle cables. Yeah, and beard oil.
And what you could do with used motorcycle cables.
What you can do with used motorcycle cables.
And straps for strapping your hog down in a trailer.
Strap down your hog.
Oh, one of the things I learned in the Navy was how to tie knots properly.
Whoa. Hey, how to tie knots properly. Knot tying.
They're, your co-host may also know how to make swing materials.
Hey now.
Up to and including taking a piece of canvas and
Francis just says,
hammock.
Francis just says, Facts, do you have a backup?
back. Way back.
Go, yeah. Literally. Have a backup.
Now, I do believe if you're going to do Facts at Night, that you need to have a Barry White song as your
Love is in the air.
intro music.
I agree. Yeah. Well, again, it's not Facts at Night. It's Facts After Dark.
Oh, Facts After Dark. Because
that has a better content. It has a better ring to it.
Yeah. But Barry White, I'm sorry.
Totally. Yeah.
He could have sung about vegetables or, cereal in the grocery store. I would have been like,
oh yeah,
fucking cereal, sexy as hell. Look at
totally.
that cereal.
Totally. I mean, he could make like cleaning your gutters sound hot.
Right.
Time to get the broom and clean your gutters.
Yeah.
So
you guys gonna rock later? Yeah.
Well, no, yeah. Well, we always rock. You kidding me? You always rock.
Yeah.
So this evening has been interesting. We didn't expect
It
much.
has.
I knew going into this evening not to expect much based on the fact, but I think it was really important. Wait a minute. Where's this come at? I feel like Fax has been holding out on us ladies with that voice. No. It only comes out after dark. Fax After Dark.
Okay.
Anywho, sorry.
Just hold on. The wife just entered the room.
Hi, Jen.
Is there any product at the TikTok shop you would like us to hawk so that we can have it in the home? Think on it. Let us know. There's also going to be a new channel.
Yeah, I saw.
You heard? Okay. Are you okay with that new channel?
Yes.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you very much.
You're not listening, but hold on a second. I want to give her my headset so you can say it again.
Okay.
Okay,
I said,
say
thank
what
you,
he
Jen.
said.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Appreciate you, Jen.
You're very funny.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Appreciate that.
All right.
All
I'm
right,
gonna
I
get
think Bunny,
your
subscribers only, maybe, yeah, subscribers only. That could be fun. We should do that. I
Yeah.
guess people are throwing down. So Bunny's going to come up and provide commentary on whether she thinks we should do Facts After Dark or what products we should
Well,
hawk.
and we will listen.
We will listen.
You
Hi,
should
Bunny.
definitely do Facts After Dark.
Okay.
Remember, you have that one lady that puts you on every single evening to fall asleep to. So
Yes,
you
that's
should
right.
definitely do that Dark Voice.
That is right.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm blushing. Thank you very much. Appreciate
Hey
that.
now.
I listen
Hey
to
now.
you every night, Facts.
That's right. That's right. That's right. So I want to just give a shout out to my friend Bunny here. Bunny is now hosting lives more regularly, and she's doing an incredible job at it. And I do find it interesting that the MAGA men think they're going to go over there and they think they're going to dominate. And boy, do they get a rude awakening really quickly. So good on you, my friend, for doing that.
Aw, thanks.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it. I learned everything from you.
Thanks. Appreciate that.
My role model.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that very much.
Well, I'll jump back down. I just had to come up after hearing that voice because you know me and my fascination with accents and sexy voices.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Bunny. Appreciate you. Thank you. Appreciate it, friend.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
I think we've started something
All right.
unintentionally. Did not mean to do that.
Hey now.
Did not mean to do that. I think we started something. Anyway, I am blushing appropriately, so that's fine. No problem.
Yes.
So, what did you learn this evening, my friend?
Well, I learned that it's important for us to call these audibles and to go through the information. While the chat box was spicy, it doesn't matter that we weren't able to get them into the box, as it were, the hot, sticky, steamy box. But, you know, it is okay because, as we point out, this platform is for educational purposes only. And I believe we achieved that. And you know what? Look, we were able to maintain between 470 and 635 people. Now, it's not the 1200 that we've reached quite often, but like most things that are educational, your audience will narrow. We had a lot of support in the chat. I really want to thank people that were policing other people's BS, and I want to thank the mods for being on it. I think we're building something here, and I believe that you should do more of these audibles, because when you sent it to me, I was like, yeah, like tonight was a great night to do it. And while I appreciate opposition being in the box, sometimes it just doesn't matter what their opinion is or their feelings. So good job. Like, I think you nailed it tonight. I really do.
I appreciate that. You know, as we talked about earlier, Anthony and I communicate. You know, we both have day jobs that we try to navigate around. We both are business owners, so we always we're always able to fit the time in. But to your point, I do think it's necessary that we do have these conversations. And as when I started doing this, the goal was to push back against misinformation. And coming from her testimony today, we know that there was misinformation connected to that. Although I will give Robert Hur some credit, he did stick to his findings, saying that I did not rule that he was senile, and the Republicans tried to pull him in and they tried to slide it in. But at the same time, Adam Schiff called him out for the political. Sweet, love that, awesome. Thank you.
What the hell was that?
That was a guitar. You got that guitar. But so that the Democrats called him out to say, how could you possibly sit there and say that you didn't think this was going to be political? Obviously it was. But more importantly,
yeah.
I think what we really learned tonight was that we now have, an interview with Bill Butler. Is that his name? Brian Butler, who is
Brian
employee
Butler.
number 5 from Mar A Lago. So again, you can read the superseding indictment. He's listed in there as employee number 5. What we learned is that he was part of the obstruction plot without knowing it.
Yep.
He was part of moving boxes without knowing it. He was part of moving classified information, some of the most secret and sensitive documents in our nation's in our nation's possession. We know that he broke down some of the sort of high level findings that the indictment provided, specifically around Mr. Pratt, the Australian billionaire, who paid $1 million to gain access. That is influence peddling, right? And you know that the orange guy's hand was wide open taking that money. And then we know that, again, based on Mr. Butler's testimony and interview, that information about subs and like Fight Club. First rule of Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club. First rule of submarines is you don't talk about submarines. And here's this guy getting this information. That's real. That's dangerous. That's why Donald Trump is a national security threat. And again, as another reminder, all this information from witnesses, all this testimony, all this data that's been collected for these indictments, all come from people closest to him. It's not a witch hunt. It is not a witch hunt. I don't know what else you need to hear and say. You talk about 2 tiers of justice. There's no one who's taken advantage of that more than Donald Trump. His Supreme Court, his attorney, his judge in Florida. The fact that every single step of the way he has been delay. Meanwhile, Joe Biden was sat down for an interview. His family was brought up. He had his political hit job written against him. Trump didn't sit for any interviews. He just kept delaying the NARA and the DOJ for what, a year, 18 months? And then he gets indicted because of his bullshit. So stop with your noise. And that's why you're afraid, MAGA. That's why you're afraid to come up to talk about it, because you can't defend it. You don't like it when we tell you that you're grape apologists and that you support sexual predators, and then your pivot is, just a civil case, no evidence. And then you get Nancy Mace doubling down on that as well, saying that, Nancy Mace, an SA survivor, doubles down saying it wasn't a criminal case, it was a civil case. That's what's happened. That is the malignancy of MAGA. I too want to share your sentiments about our mods. I can't thank you all enough. We would not be able to do this without you. And I know that there's a lot of live creators out there that would say the same thing, but we have the best mods there are. I appreciate all of you. Tomorrow night, unless things change, we'll be back on the main account. And we have a couple other things that we wanted to touch on. We're probably going to spend more time talking about the budget. I think it's really, really important because, again, you're trying to remember we talk about elections are about contrast, and we don't know any policies from the right because they never talk about policies. Donald Trump's entire game is about, retribution. He's told us that he'll be your president of retribution. Meanwhile, Joe Biden wants to protect the middle class, wants to protect women's rights, wants to protect the poor, wants to protect children, wants the rich to pay their fair share, wants to prop up unions, wants to fire up American ingenuity like never before. That's what we're talking about for the next however many years. So, thank you all for joining tonight. Really, really appreciate you. Anything else, Anthony?
Nope, just good night. And I think we're going to have some funny conversations in the morning.
Yeah, I'm sure we will.
We recap tonight. Gosh, this is one of those moments where I wish I had the body I had when I was in the Navy, because I just show up shirtless. But being shirtless at this stage in life is not only unadvisable for the sake of all eyes.
We could do that during Facts After Dark, but we would do it like literally in the dark. Because I'm with you. Thank you, everybody, for joining tonight. We appreciate you, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.